And we're live.
Yeah,
hello.
All right.
Hi, y'all. How's it going?
We're gonna do this professionally this time. I believe in us.
Well, I mean, yeah. We
Okay.
already started off by, like, I counted us in. I didn't just
Yep.
cut us to live like I did last night.
All right, we should. All right, here we go. Intro time. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Morning Ritual here on Critical Misses. I am one of your hosts, TheNoirEnigma.
And I'm your other host, Anita. Oh, God, we can't do this.
we got this.
We got this. Okay.
Today-
Okay. Stick the landing.
I introduce you. You introduce the guest.
And we have an amazing guest today. Izza, tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name's Izza. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a designer and cosplayer and TTRPG streamer and podcaster and many things. I'm like the archetypal millennial with 5 million jobs. So yeah, that's me. I was kind of like, I'm not sure why they want me on this thing, and then before we started, Noir was like, I'm going to talk to you about cosplay. So I'm ready.
That was a perfect impression, by the way. That's
Correct.
I have so many questions and I don't know anything. But first off, we to start, we're very excited to have you. I just want to remind everybody that we do, in fact, now have a Patreon for Morning Ritual. So that's cool. It grants you access to all sorts of things, like hearing me watch Dungeons and Dragons, 2000 Dungeons and Dragons. We have an audio commentary track. And if you join the Patreon, you get to choose what movies we watch next. Everybody seems to have it in their mind that we're gonna watch the sequel to Dungeons and Dragons.
You should.
No.
And then the third movie in that trilogy.
No, we're not. I can't do any more of that.
I didn't know until just before we went live that there was a sequel and another sequel to that D&D movie. So I think you should do that one.
It's the best most cursed information.
I no. But if you want to have a say into what we do next, please take a look at the Patreon.
Vote for the D&D movie.
No. Well, that's been our episode today. It's been great.
It's gonna cut to the end screen.
I lost my train of thought because I really don't want to watch this. They could only afford to bring back one actor.
It was the best actor, though, to bring back. Damn it, on. He acted his neck off.
He acted with his neck the whole movie.
It's one of these.
Okay, I'm sorry. Morning Ritual is also a podcast. You'll be able to find it on wherever you go do your podcast stuff. Don't ask me, man. Okay, let's get back to the show. So this is where I start just dropping the deluge of cosplay questions I have for you. But the first one I have to ask is, in terms of communities, which one's more annoying, the TTRPG community or the cosplay community?
Oh my God.
Out shooting.
Look,
to make it a little easier for you, I'll give you a story of the one rare time that I tried to cosplay. I tried to cosplay Revan. I am a thick boy. Revan, if you don't know, is from Knights of the Old Republic, one of my favorite Sith/Jedis. And I went on like a Cosplay Sky website or whatever and bought the costume. And then I found myself on 4chan 2 weeks later, just getting the whole life roasted out of me. I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I love this.
The 4chan cosplay board is a fucking cesspit. I mean, what part of 4chan is.
You could just cut out
I
the
legitimately
forward cosplay board out of that, and you would be still right.
Yeah. Any of them. I genuinely don't know how to answer that question because I keep going like, well, in the cosplay community, this has happened multiple times. And I'm like, but in the TTRPG community, this has happened multiple times. But I would say I've been cosplaying since I was like 14, and I have only been like in the TTRPG sphere properly, like regularly playing games and streaming since like 2019, 2020. So I've had more time to grow to despise elements of the cosplay community than the TTRPG community.
With enough exposure, you hate everything.
Yeah.
Your hate only makes me stronger.
But also, on the flip side of that, I remember trying to get into TTRPGs like multiple times when I was much younger and feeling very like gate kept out of it and very much like being told implicitly this is not a space for your kind. so I like bounced off it multiple times, and it took me a long time to actually get into TTRPGs because of that. So I'm like, does that make TTRPGs worse than cosplay? I don't know.
They couldn't keep you out of the cosplay community. But no, oh Jesus. I always have to ask cosplayers that question because I've only had a few run-ins with the cosplay community, but they have the extraordinary ability to find that one thing about you.
Yeah. That's the thing with cosplay, you are putting pictures and videos of yourself out there. So there's a lot more scope for something to become personalized in terms of like insults and critiques and stuff like that. So it can definitely feel more personal when you're being yelled at about cosplay than about TTRPGs.
What was your first cosplay that you ever did?
Oh God. Embarrassingly, I think it was something from Naruto, because I was 14, like right at the right age. It was like the right time. Like I was that age when Naruto came out. I think it was I think the character's name is Haku. I'm like so unfamiliar.
Oh, Haku! Yeah.
The one with like the green robe and the long brown hair. Yeah, I think it was that. My mum helped me make the costume. I was a little baby. I was being taught how to sew. But yeah, and then I started doing and then I started doing cosplays that were more like my spin on a character. So I did stuff like my own design for like a red mage, and I'm not saying it was good, but because I was like 14, but yeah, like a red mage from Final Fantasy, but like in my own style kind of thing. And I also later on did that with like Transformers characters, like taking a Transformers character and making like a human version of it and designing what their outfit would look like.
That's baller.
Yeah, that's fun. Thanks.
Can I ask, what has been your favorite cosplay that you've done?
In terms of like the different skills I put into the costume, and so feeling like I learned a lot from it, I think it would be my Aloy cosplay from Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, that's amazing, by the way.
Thank you. I did the Nora Lookout outfit, which was more heavily armored than the like regular outfit she wears, and it's this great combination of like really intricate armor making, and it's like sci-fi looking armor, white armor as well, which for anyone who doesn't know, white armor is the most annoying kind of armor to paint because it can really easily just look like a hot mess. So it was like this really intricate armor coupled with like a lot of sewing and a lot of leather work and a lot of like different techniques and materials and stuff. That there's a lot of like woven ropes that hold on the armor and like little bits of embroidery and stuff like that. So it was just a lot of different skills and a lot of time and energy went into it. I also made a bow for the first time. I'd never made a bow before I made that cosplay. So that was fun. But I also have like a special love for my Miss Marvel cosplay and my Cassandra cosplay, because I just really love how they turned out, and people always have such a positive reaction to Miss Marvel especially. So yeah, all of them.
The answer is like trying to pick a favorite child.
Yeah.
But my parents can do that easily. No, so God damn it. So I have to ask, when people like are so skilled in one craft and then they're also in TTRPG, does your ability with costumes and cosplay ever cross over into like how you build your character, how you play your character, or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I really love about playing TTRPGs is making characters, and then I'm always thinking about what that character looks like and what they wear and the items they carry on them and what that says about them as I'm creating the character, even before I've like drawn them or made a mood board, which I almost always do. And you know, as well as being a cosplayer, I'm like my job, my profession is I've been a theater designer for about 7 awesome. Years now. So I design sets and costumes and props as well. So I have a background in like design as well as making. So yeah, I'm always very like aesthetically driven with my characters, as well as mechanically and story narrative driven with them. And yeah, what always makes me like sink my teeth into a character is going like, okay, what's like their sort of theme that's gonna translate over into their aesthetic and what they wear and what that says about them. So yeah, always.
You're the second person that I've met that's gone that specific direction, like the cosplay to like actual theater set design.
Okay.
My friend Peter does like a Commando Shepherd cosplay, and he used to actually just like make little cosplays and figurines out of duct tape.
Yeah.
And then now he actually does like set production for movies in the studio.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's quite a crossover. It used to be like, even when I went to drama school to do theater design, there was a bit of like a judgment around people who came in through cosplay, and I'm glad that seems to have started to subside a little bit now, because it just always felt like, look, it's people discovering the art of design in their own way, so why mock them for it? If it came from cosplaying at a convention or it came from like building tables, like it doesn't matter, you know?
It almost feels like a different kind of gatekeeping.
Yeah, definitely. And the fact is that so many people who work in theatre and film are massive nerds. Like I'm next year, I'm going to do, not next year, it's now the next year. In September, I'm going to start an MA in prosthetics effects design to like transfer over to working in film.
Oh boy.
Everyone in that field is a nerd. Everyone. Like, you're making the zombies and the sci-fi stuff and the fantasy stuff. Like, everyone's a nerd there.
Oh my god, that's gonna be so sick. I was just thinking, like, it just occurred to me, you on a regular basis deal with the cosplay community, TTRPG community, and theater kids. Whew.
I mean, so I didn't discover the term theater kids for a while because I think that's a very like American term. Like we don't really say that here. But yeah, I guess. I don't know if it has quite the same like connotations over here as it does over there. But I have discovered what theater kid means in America very specifically. Because of the internet. Yeah.
We're okay.
No, I just said that Nat does have a question in chat. Wants to know, do you have any examples of character designs that you're proud of?
For TTRPGs, I'm assuming that means?
I'm not certain.
I'm thinking in general.
In terms of TTRPGs, I love all my babies. But my character Elise, who's like probably my favorite D&D character, Storm Genasi, wizard rogue multiclass, who for that character I really wanted to give the idea that she was, I'm mixed race and I'm part Arab and part South Asian, as well as like a multitude of other things, and trying to like express a character being mixed race through costume design can be quite difficult, because there's, especially with South Asian and Arab clothing and visual elements in general, the way it's often depicted is just a mishmash of everything, because it's white people who don't know any better thinking about Al-Qadim over here, just like chucking a bunch of stuff from Aladdin together and not really like thinking about it too much. So I tried really hard to make a character who looked like she had elements of like both of those things in her costume design by doing like a sort of deconstructed sari, and her arcane focus resembles like a Moroccan lantern and stuff like that. So yeah, I really love that character design. She's the character I draw the most, so that also says something. And then as well as that, I did the character art for a show that Nat GM'd, Quest the Soaring City, where I was asked to draw like all the character portraits, and then that ended up a couple seasons in being like full body art for all of the characters. So I basically got to design the entire cast of characters with obviously input from what I wanted. But that was really fun because we had such a cool and like different cast of characters from one another. Nat, I will call you out like that. So yeah, like everything from my character was this like really big, buff, tall Invoker is the name of the character class in Quest. It's the equivalent would be like a paladin in D&D, but without the religious connotations, so I like it. With like, and her culture had this big thing about like magic based around drawing energy from the sun, so there was a lot of like solar type imagery interspersed with some sort of like stuff inspired by like henna and stuff like that. And then we had like our doctor character who wore like a plague doctor's mask and was like this big gothy dude with like black feathers on his cape and stuff like that. And then like the literal kid who was like a feral child who at the beginning wore like a wolf pelt and then later on wore like people clothes, and like designing their sort of like character journey was very fun.
I knew I recognized Quest the Soaring City. I watched you guys for a bit there.
Yeah, we're Chromatic Chimera buddies.
Oh man, like no, but that was, I didn't know you did the art for that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Quit having so many skills, you're making me feel bad. I want to need you to knock it off.
You have different skills.
I'll
Not
leave.
everybody has the same skills. That's fine.
So I mean, it's amazing to hear like the amount of thought that you can represent a character with just their clothing. I have to ask you, have you ever like watched a movie and know where it was going to go purely based on costume design?
Oh God, I'm struggling to think of a specific example because my brain hates me. But I know that is the case where I've been like been able to see like, oh, this character is dressed in a way that has like similar, like a similar way the clothing is made or similar materials, which means I can tell that they have something to do with this other character who has like the same kind of materials or patterning in their clothes. Which I'm really hating that I can't think of one right now, but I know that that's the case because I'm the kind of person who will be like, oh, this guy, they're gonna turn out to be allies with this guy because of X and Y, and people are like, what? And then I'm like, I told you when it happens.
My sibling is the same way with hair and makeup, which is the reason that I asked, because like I'll watch a show and they'll go, she's got a high ponytail, she's about to betray them. And I'm like, what does that mean?
I was like, I mean, there is like, people get really bait with it. Like did you have to like put the evil guy who's trying to be a good guy in makeup that tells you he's a bad guy? Like, it's so obvious.
Like, they have completely ruined movies for me because I'm starting to recognize some of the things like, oh no, that makeup exaggerates the bags under their eyes. They're either possessed or evil now.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's my favorite to do with hair and makeup in like TV shows and films. And I can name a specific example for this one. The show Jane the Virgin is like I enjoy that show, but it's like an absolute pet peeve with that show where they have characters who are like in full face, like latex prosthetics as a disguise and wigs, and they can just like peel off the entire full face latex prosthetic that just look like a normal human face, and they just look like beautiful and fully made up underneath, and they pull the wig off and their hair just like flows down. It's not tied up, it's not an air wig, like a wig cap or anything, and they're just like, yes, it was me all along, look at my perfect curled hair and makeup.
Hey, yo, what the fuck is going on in Jane the Virgin? That's not at all what I thought that show would happen.
That show has some multi-layered like crime boss disguising herself as other people shit going on in it.
Just thought it was about a virgin named Jane. It's a spy movie or something. You see, that's why we have people on, because I wouldn't have known. How about we watch Jane the Virgin instead of Dungeons and Dragons 2?
I don't know. We'll have to leave that up to the patrons. We'll ask our single patron what he thinks.
Oh God! I just wanted to ask you that because, like, I imagine watching movies with people that are skilled in costume design or makeup and hair. It has to be an experience because y'all can see things coming a mile away. But I also have to ask, why do all Marvel costumes look alike? Can we stop this?
Yeah.
I need it. I need it to stop.
So like, I understand why characters like Captain America and like Black Widow and like Hawkeye, like the grounded Earth-based heroes who all work for SHIELD, like I can understand why you want to have them kind of look like they come from the same costume world, because that makes sense, right? Like they all work for the same company, they all kind of have similar, like they all work together, they're not from Asgard or anything, like. But then when yeah, you're right, like seeing like, I'm sorry, Shang-Chi's like super bland outfit, which just has like the same kind of patterning on it as all of them, and I'm like, but he's not, he's from a completely different like world. I don't mean world as in like he's from another planet. I mean like his world within the MCU is a different world from, and where he gets his powers from is a different world from where Captain America has his origins and stuff.
And they all look the same.
But meanwhile, you have the Eternals that also look exactly the same,
but with like weird circles on them.
Yes.
Like, I'm just tired of seeing franchises that have like classic and legendary outfits be bland or marvelized. Like, I still don't know how we've had like 10 X-Men movies and we haven't gotten Storm's costume right once.
Yeah. I like back when I was like 8 or whenever the first X-Men movie came out and Hugh Jackman makes the quip about yellow spandex, I was like, haha, yeah, it would be silly. And now I'm like, no, give me the yellow spandex.
Put him in the spandex.
But speaking of Storm, have you seen, God, I can't remember the artist's name, but recently a Marvel artist redesigned Storm's outfit for like the new comic run or whatever. I'm not like super up to date with reading comics at the moment. And she looks so fucking good. Like it was the first time in ages I'd just been like, yes, she looks amazing. And she looks like she should be called Storm. Like she's got actual like natural hair and it looks like a fucking storm cloud. Like it's just such a good idea. Why has no one done that before instead of giving her like weirdly straight hair?
Look, I have to give it to the Black comic fans and the PLC comic fans. I'm gonna give us a pat on the back because there was, I think it was like a year or two ago where there was major backlash because there was one issue of a Storm comic or of an X-Men comic where you could tell that they just traced a portrait of a white lady. It just made it like her nose looks like.
Was it Greg Land? Was it that artist? Because he's like I'm not like super up to date on comics now, but I know that he's like notorious for tracing
porn.
Tracing porn. Porn. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was him.
Yeah, but they made Storm look white as fuck, and like I think that was the final straw for a lot of people.
There's several examples of that where they like either like completely lighten Storm or get rid of every single African feature that would like indicate that she's black. And like there's that one,
so bizarre
there's that one game where character portraits is like that is a white woman with a mohawk,
which. Oh man, yeah, and it's so weird because like the complaint that the the gatekeep brigade, shall we call them, often gives is like, well, this character was white and then you turned them POC, or this character was male and then you made them a woman. But with Storm, you can't even make that crap argument. Like, and it's a bad argument, but like you can't even make that argument with Storm. She was a black woman from day one. She was like the black woman in Marvel. Like you can't even make that argument with her. It just like
it's again just another fight to be had. But like I am glad that like we now have like just an amazing lineup of X-Men. But I just feel like there are some characters whose costumes never miss. Like I don't think Gambit has ever had a bad costume.
Gambit's a good. I like Gambit's design a lot.
Yeah, I don't think Storm has ever had a bad costume, and I'll go to the mat on that one. Wolverine has had some bad costumes. While I've often been disappointed with how like Storm's face and hair is depicted, she has had some of my favorite like comic book character outfits. I think like the 90s white outfit with like the weird cape thing, so fucking cool. Like Mohawk Storm is cool. And then this new one where I was just like, holy shit, fuck yeah. Like her hair looks like a storm cloud. This is amazing. Another favorite of mine is Spider-Gwen. I fucking love Spider-Gwen. Oh my God, it's such a dope design.
It's just like such a cool, because it's such a difficult challenge, I imagine, for any artist like designing any kind of new spider character, because the classic Peter Parker outfit is so iconic. So then but both Miles and Gwen actually, like just such a really cool way of reimagining the character and making them their own character while also letting you know that they're a spider character, spider person, whatever you want to call it. But completely in their own way without it feeling like they're just a wannabe Peter Parker.
Like the ballet slippers for Gwen.
Yeah.
And just
her color scheme is so good.
So good.
There's an amazing through line with all the different Spider-Man costumes where it's just like the eyes are usually the same and then there's a spider emblem. But from there, like I've really seen, especially lately with like Miles and the new PS4 or PS5 game, like they just have kind of gone nuts with like just reimagining Spider-Man, and I love it so much. Like for a while there was the Spider Soda where people were just coming up with their own Spider-Man persona, and I'm like, that's so true to the spirit of the character that I love it immensely. Everybody can be Spider-Man.
And like I don't know if it was like the tagline of Into the Spider-Verse or if it's like a thing with Spider-Man in general, but the whole idea of anyone can wear the mask. Yeah. And when you see characters like Gwen and Miles, not only because they're not white dudes, but also because the design that they have given them makes it completely their own version of being Spider-Man or Spider-Woman. It's not just the new Peter Parker is a woman. This is Spider-Gwen. She is her own character who has her own style, and Miles who has his own style and his own personality. Like, yeah.
Like I love that so much. Like, here's how much I love Miles. There is an official Nike's Miles Morales gym shoe.
Yeah. That
they made from the internet. I am not a sneakerhead. I can't fathom spending more than $100 on shoes. I'm just cheap that way. And I will have these shoes before I die.
I mean, Miles's color, like I love Gwen's color scheme, but like Miles's color scheme as well. Such a fucking good, like, I can imagine that being so good on trainers and like jackets and stuff. I mean, he literally wears a jacket in his a jacket and sneakers like in his character design. Like it's just so well placed for that.
It's the same color scheme as the Chicago Bulls. Just put that out there.
That's one of your long-standing gripes is that Miles should have been from Chicago.
I'm so sick of all the spider people being from New York. Give us one.
Look, superheroes can only be from New York, okay? Like,
I hate it so much. That's bullcrap and everybody knows it. New York isn't even that great.
Well, Miss Marvel's from New Jersey, so that's and speaking of other character designs I really love, obviously since I cosplayed her.
Yeah, the Gail Simone, like the whole Miss Marvel run by Gail Simone is freaking incredible.
No, it was
or Gil Smoke.
You mean G Willow?
Yeah, G Willow Wilson. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You're right. My brain messed up for a sec there, but I and the costume design perfect. The characterization lovely.
Yeah, I've been. I recently bought like the sort of big volume of the whole of that run and the subsequent one because I never finished reading that run at the time, so I wanted to like reread the bits I had read and actually like catch up on what the hell has been going on with Miss Marvel. And just it's that run is just such a like perfect comic run, such a perfect like introduction to a new character, making her like relatable and funny and goofy, but then the story is still gripping and has like emotional parts, and it, because of the nature of her powers, there's loads of like goofy, wacky, like out of proportion comic book shit going on. And like I love her character design so much because it's just such a good example of like incorporating a non-white character's culture into their design through their costume, but in a way that's still true to the character. Like she's a young girl, she uses a burkini, but like the cut of the outfit is very distinctively South Asian, and then draws from elements of like classic superhero costumes. Like the color scheme is obviously based on Captain Marvel, but then there's also like a similarity to Superman, who's like the emblematic iconic superhero outfit.
Yeah.
And so it just visually sends that message of like, this is a superhero who is also South Asian and Muslim, and you can tell that about her just from looking at the costume. So yeah, I could talk about Miss Marvel for a long time.
I mean, that is one that they had to. I feel like they have to get right for live action.
I'm nervous.
I'm also very nervous because if they change the powers, I'm gonna be upset because there's a very sweet moment that we have in the comic books based on her powers. But
yeah,
I do worry also about them kind of sterilizing the characters, background and influence. I don't know if you had the chance to play Marvel's Avengers. I
actually did quite recently. Yeah,
it was not a great game, but I did enjoy the story mode, but I still kind of felt like a lot of the charm from the comics were kind of taken out, if that makes any sense.
It was an odd one because like obviously the game ended up being just like a bloated microtransaction money grubbing mess, like in general. But the core story that was there with Miss Marvel was like had good elements to it and had the potential to be even better. And it feels like it just got kind of like picked out and picked apart so that they could make room for the big microtransaction stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because I think the actress who played Kamala in that game was really good. I think they got her personality down, and like the way she interacts with the Hulk and Bruce Banner really like it's like a good showcase for her character and her place in the Avengers and stuff like that. So it's just a shame it couldn't have been a AAA Avengers game starring Miss Marvel, a brown girl, and just been allowed to be that as opposed to all the other shit they tried to ladle on top of it.
I like, because you're describing exactly what I was feeling, which is just like, if they had focused on the story, I feel like this would have been great. In a great introduction to Miss Marvel for a lot of people that didn't get around to reading it. And I still feel like the game was a great introduction.
I do see a lot of people, whenever the game is brought up on Twitter, I see a lot of people saying, or when Miss Marvel is brought up, people saying like, that game was my introduction to Kamala Khan. I didn't know who she was before that, but I'm excited to like watch the new TV show, read the new comic run, whatever. So it's a shame.
I mean, even being as bad a game as it was, the fact that it's still able to do that, I think is a testament more to the character than to the game itself, because it was
definitely. And like you're right, they could have done some more stuff to like bring in her Pakistani background and stuff like that, but I like that her dad was quite a central figure in the beginning and the end of the game. And like they do throw in like elements of it, like she makes reference to stuff to do with her home life that's to do with being a Muslim, to do with being Pakistani, but there could have been more, definitely.
So I've got a lot of hope for this TV show.
Yeah,
and the movie.
I just like, look, you shouldn't make fictional characters like a basis for your entire identity. But if there was one Marvel character I was desperate for them to get right, it's Miss Marvel.
I feel that. That was me when I went to go see Black Panther for the first time. I was just doing that silent prayer of, please don't fuck this up, and we're not going to get another one.
Exactly. That's the problem. That's the thing, is like when a group of people have so little representation, you rely on, when you get the one movie or the one TV show or the one video game or whatever, it has to be amazing. It has to make all the money in the world in order for there to be like two more like it.
Exactly.
You know? And like brown people, like South Asians, Muslims, have so little, Pakistani people especially have so little representation compared to even some other like marginalized groups, that like this is literally like it. It's like the one big like franchise thing that could, if it's hugely successful and amazing, could kick off like us actually being able to make more things based on our own cultures. So it comes from more of a place other than just like, I love this character. It's very much like, I need this to be good, so that it proves that stuff about like brown girls, Muslim girls, Pakistani girls can succeed, so that more of it will be made. Basically,
because if it doesn't, then it gets used as an example of why this doesn't work and why we need to stick to a white male protagonist.
Exactly. And like I know a few years ago, maybe longer now, there like some kind of like email chain or something was exposed from like back in the day when people were pitching, I think, a Wonder Woman movie or like some superhero movie with like a white female protagonist, basically. And they said like, it was like studio execs literally being like, superhero movies with female leads don't succeed. Look at Supergirl. And that was it. Like, they were just like, look at Supergirl. It was shit. It tanked. We can't do any more female superhero movies. So like, that is literally how they think, unfortunately. And maybe not as much nowadays, because there has been more of a push for genuine examples of diversity, and some that aren't so genuine, but it is still a very real, almost threat that like, if the Aladdin movie doesn't succeed, we won't get any more Arab representation. If the Miss Marvel TV show doesn't succeed, we won't get any more Pakistani representation. Like,
I think that is an experience that makes POC nerds a bit more passionate than our counterparts might be able to understand. Like, I saw Black Panther an embarrassing number of times. Like, I saw Black Panther to the amount of times where if I told you how many times I saw it, we would be disturbed. But it's just kind of like, you know, you got it. Like, it almost feels like duty bound. Like, I can't let this movie fail because
I
there is that extra weight, right? Like, I don't know about you, but I've defended movies that I can now admit are terrible just because
when you have so little and you're just like, look, it may not be that good, but there's a South Asian character in it.
Like, everybody shut up. Meteor Man is great. Meteor Man is the best superhero movie ever. And Blake Man was A1. No,
Steel.
But I do like that we are reaching a point where we can actually be more discerning with like not just accepting the first thing that gets like slapped down on the plate in front of us in terms of like representation for like marginalized groups, POC, and where we can't. So for example, I recently watched The Witcher, which I don't understand why everyone fucking loves this show, because I thought it was terrible.
Because Henry Cavill is hot.
I was just like, did you just spend the entire thing just looking at his arse? Like, which I'm not even that attracted to him personally. So I wasn't even like, at least there's that for me. But like taking a character like Yennefer, for example, who's a character that by all rights I should have loved to see. It's a mixed race, like half Indian woman in a lead role, but just that's like the surface level, right? Like that's factual. Like, yes, she is a mixed race character played by a mixed race actress who's of a similar like descent to me. But then you look at like how the character is written and treated in the show, and it's abysmal. Like, her storyline revolves around her starting off as disabled and being completely mistreated for that,
and having part of her personage taken away because in order to gain magic powers, she had to give up the ability to have kids.
Yeah, and it being portrayed as like, you can fix being disabled by doing this, which is horrible. And I'm not probably the best person equipped to talk about like physical disability ableism, but like, I know that that's horrible at least. And then she's a mixed race character who's constantly like, the character is also half elven. So the character is mixed race in terms of like the in-universe races, and elves are subjugated, and people yell like slurs about her being half elf at her and talk about her a certain way for being half elven. And it was just horrible to watch, both on the scales of like mixed race and POC representation of her being a woman, because there's like a whole bunch of other shit there, like you mentioned the whole like giving up being able to have children, and then her entire storyline revolves around her trying to have children anyway. And then on the scale of like her being a disabled
adoption's
character,
not a thing. I'm sorry. That's just all right.
But what I mean is that like, we have more options available potentially to be able to not just go like, well, at least it's a mixed race character played by a mixed race person, and actually be able to dissect the fact that it is a very problematic representation of a mixed race woman and a disabled person, and potentially point to other places where it was done better, hopefully. But yeah, like I thought I silenced my phone, but I did not. But yeah, it just, there's still so many of those negative tropes around it in fantasy in general, and I long for the day that I can watch a fantasy show without going like, okay, how are they going to treat disabled people and women and mixed race people and POC in general and gay people?
So you might have heard that I had to watch Dungeons and Dragons recently.
Yeah,
last night it was
we
amazing.
might have talked about it.
No. So one of the things that frustrates me to no end is like, in fantasy and sci-fi, like, you're either the tough black guy or you're the funny black guy. And like, they wrote Marlon Wayans as the funny black guy with the same amount of care that they wrote. Yeah, that was him in that movie. Yeah, I hated it. They wrote him with the same amount of effort that they wrote Apu from Aladdin in the Disney movie. Like, honestly, if he just screeched, he would be Apu. I hated it.
My like memory of that movie is so foggy, and like so I watched it when I was like 12 or something. I barely remember it. I remember it being bad. I remember just being like, I don't know what D&D is, but this does not make me want to play it in any way, shape, or form. I would actually be very interested to watch that movie again now. Like, someone who actually plays D&D, someone who has worked in the film industry and knows more about filmmaking, and still could even see it was bad back then, but I'm just very
the costume design is actually really beautiful in that movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The costume designs were okay, except there is an elf ranger,
of course,
who wore a full I know, right? A full plate of breast armor.
There's nipples and a belly button.
I was gonna say, is it suction cup booby armor?
Yeah, it was the fully formed.
You know those what are they called when you have like tomatoes or apples or whatever, and they're packaged in like the plastic that just like
shrink wrapped,
like,
yeah.
Why does all women's armor look like that?
I think they've improved, but not by much.
Yeah, it goes beyond a pet peeve for me, where it's literally just like, okay, you cannot think of this female character as anything other than like a sexual object or your only idea of female armor comes from watching other movies where they did bad female armor and you just haven't done any actual research.
It doesn't protect if we can't see the nipples on the armor.
It is a boob, cuirass, and a mini skirt, a pink mini skirt.
Oh, God.
Wait, was she wearing a mini skirt?
Yeah, she was wearing like a pink mini skirt.
I think I gave up by then.
Yeah,
I couldn't.
I think all hope was lost. There were several times we had to pause because the streaming service we were using was being fought by Noir's internet.
Oh God, Noir's internet was just like, please make it stop. I don't.
I just wanted to prolong the movie for as long as possible.
It was truly a hellish experience, and nobody should go through that.
There was a beholder. It was a guard beholder.
Was it like terrible early 2000s CGI?
Oh, everything. It was.
Oh yeah, it was
PlayStation.
PlayStation 2 quality.
I really want to watch it. Like,
no,
I kind of enjoy, like, you know how a lot of people have that thing of like enjoying watching bad movies because it's fun to like rip on them. But I do also kind of enjoy watching bad movies because I feel like by watching bad movies, you can learn what not to do to make a good movie. And also laugh at it. It's fun.
I mean, you gonna see Jeremy Irons acting his whole ass off to try and save this movie.
Do you think Jeremy Irons was like the one person who knew what movie he was in? Or was he just like, balls to the wall, I don't give a fuck, I know this is shit, I'm just gonna have fun?
I think that was pretty much it.
I think this was acting hubris, where he was just like, how bad of a movie can I be in?
Yeah.
And save it off the strength of nothing but my ass.
And maintain my career.
He was playing a game of chicken with his career. That's what it was. Oh my God. I would love to know how much you got paid for that. Because it wasn't enough.
Tom Baker was in it for like a small cameo.
Caps.
Like, Bruce Payne did an excellent job as Damodar.
We're not talking about this movie anymore.
Did such a good job as Damodar that they brought him back for the second movie. And if
he's the only character they brought back for the second one. I'm not watching it.
Wait, which one's the one they brought back? Jeremy Irons.
No,
they couldn't afford him again.
They couldn't afford Jeremy Irons again. Richard, or not Richard O'Brien. What's his name? I need to.
It's like Bryce something.
Bryce Payne.
Bryce Payne.
Oh, okay.
He's an English actor. They had a bunch of English actors because I think they filmed it there. The second one I think got filmed in Romania because they needed to cut costs because it was like sci-fi original movie and direct to DVD.
Well, I'm sorry. There's a few things in chat that I've just noticed. One, Nathan Kaiser, I don't know who you are, but don't think you're going to get away with talking about my parents like that. I'll see you in the streets, punk. And the next thing is, Lord, I did not know that ladies and gentlemen wore the same armor. That's
so like
that's pretty awesome. So where did all these booby armor come from?
It's literally just sexualization and objectification.
Hollywood.
So the shape of, like, say for example, picture in your head like what we think of as like standard medieval European plate armor or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like that sort of like domed shape like that. Like the point of that shape is to make like a blade glance off of the armor rather than like come in and stab you.
Yeah.
So when you give women boob cups and you have these like sculpted domes, it's literally creating like a divot for the sword to just go right in there. And even if it doesn't break through the armor, the impact can still injure you because then the armor is like going into you.
It's supposed to cushion you because usually you would have like a gambeson underneath your plate armor to make sure that holds even more of the impact.
Exactly. And if you have this like super form-fitting like chainmail bikini or like plate bikini armor,
that set of armor that you've got behind you right now, Noir.
What?
Oh. I have armor behind me. Nobody can see it.
You do?
Here, I can. Oh, no, I can't do that. Well,
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, I could only see the pole.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, so like, yeah, there's supposed to be space for padding underneath. And the thing people try to claim about the whole like boob cup thing is that it makes space for the boobs in the armor, and like, well, what about women with big boobs? They need space for their boobs in the armor. And it's like the standard breastplate shape would accommodate for that. You just need the clothes underneath to like fit your boobs properly, and then the armor is meant to be like extended further out from your actual body, so the armor already accommodates for women with big boobs.
There is nothing funnier to me than the fact that as a species we have been to the moon and we are just we're on the verge of exploring the galaxy, but guys still have no idea how boobs work.
It's like the universal truth alongside like printer technology will always suck. Like printers will always be shit. Men will never know how boobs work.
How boobs or how like women's bodies work.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, you could tell me anything. Like, yo, don't you hate it at 3 a.m. when the wings like break out of your back and you have to fly around the night screeching? I'd be like, damn, y'all got to go through that. Y'all are really something else. You really just out here dealing with these back wings.
Oh yeah, you know, at night when my claws and my scales come out and I have to go and feast on fresh hearts.
All
like,
women are harpies.
Know.
You don't know.
That's why it's kind of laughable to me that there is even a period of time where a guy could be like, no, that's a witch. Like, bro, we don't even know what's normal. You gonna tell me you can figure out what's super? Like, nah, that's no, come on.
I mean, it's just part of the female experience, just traveling around
We need more boob in
the
the
dead
armor.
of night and eating men's hearts.
Yeah. With your scales and your claws and your wings. And you know at night how our eyelids change so that instead of blinking up and down, we blink from side to side like a
Correct.
lizard?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though, and I've got to be completely honest. If I were in that meeting room where they were just like, we're doing costume design for, you know, the female protagonist armor, here's some designs, and somebody's like, but shouldn't we need more room for the boobs? I would probably have been like, that guy makes sense.
The other thing about the, like, I've just remembered, the other thing about the whole, like, but there used to be space for the boobies thing is, like, I guess you could compare, like, a woman going out into battle putting on armor to, like, a female athlete and what she needs to wear. Female athletes wear sports bras, which kind of flatten your boobs. And yes, like, obviously some women have, like, even bigger boobs, which don't flatten as much, but, like,
binding exists.
It is possible. Yeah, like, you're not going out into battle with your fucking like push-up bra on. Like, you kind of want them to be like flattened down a little bit, you know.
It's okay. You can, the ladies can take it. You can squish them just a little bit.
Yeah, just a bit. There are people who wear binders every day and they're fine as long as you do it correctly. Like, yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. Dudes are pieces of shit. That's what this is coming down to. Because you were just like, the moment you said, well, there are female athletes that, you know, like, you know, get ready and everything. And I'm like, have you seen the YouTube videos of this, like, the summer track and fields? Like, it all explains so much. It's because, like, dudes genuinely, like, they see a movie and their brain just goes off. I know because I suffered the same affliction. Like, there's like an Australian track meet person who like was just doing a little dance before the race, and that like traveled all across YouTube. It was just like, I don't know. It's just everything's starting to make sense now, and I'm depressed.
Because most men don't see women as people, they see them as objects to be objectified.
Yo, nothing pissed me off more than like the fucking Captain Marvel. Why is she smiling on the poster shit? Oh, god damn it.
Speaking of a recent MCU costume that I think actually works, Like, I liked Captain Marvel's live action costume. It was good. She wore a flight suit because she's a pilot. It makes sense. And the color scheme looked nice. But yeah, that whole thing of like, why isn't she smiling? Like,
why did she have to beat up that guy for telling her to smile?
Like, Captain Marvel was, I enjoyed it more than some other people. I accept that there are problems with it, but I also think that a lot of people kind of just poo-poo it because they don't see how many of like the smaller interactions in that film are very specifically about her gender, and it's just not their experience, so they don't even notice it. And like, you know, there's other problems with it, like the whole like promoting of the military and all that shit, but like, as a woman watching that film, I was very much like, oh, they are trying to go for this thing of like her being told she's too emotional when she very clearly is not emotional. Like, that is a thing that femme presenting people experience, like, to a larger scale than masculine presenting people. So the whole thing of like, she never smiles, she only has one facial expression, it's like, yeah, she's literally been like brainwashed to be like almost emotionless and then is still being told she's too emotional. They're trying to make a point, guys.
Right?
I mean, honestly, I just feel like people shit on that movie because they don't relate to the character because it's not what they're used to seeing, and they don't want to do the work of trying to relate to somebody who has an experience other than the one that you have. Yeah, which is something that we've had to do all our goddamn lives.
Exactly, yeah. Like, women and people of color and LGBT people like always had to do that because there weren't any other options available for a lot of the time.
I'm just saying, if you have never played a game with a creative character that you couldn't make your skin tone, so you found the one costume that covered up their face and head like a hood or something, you don't know the struggle.
Or hair types.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't even want to get into hair types. That'll be a whole 2-hour rant right there. It's always the same three. A box cut, an afro, or really shitty dreads.
Or like shaved right down. Yeah.
It's not that hard to give us a fade, fam.
People talking about, it was like Dragon Age Inquisition, back when that came out, talking about how there were like, those measly 3 options for like black hair, but then there were no beard options to match for the men. So like, if you wanted to be a black male character with a beard, you had to have like
a dwarf
straight hair. Yeah.
It was not. It's it's become such a meme now. Like, you would think somebody would do something about it, but that's not where we live in.
No, they leave it up to modders to do the work. Like Ebonic Sims or any of the others that do modding for video games. I think Sims got better because of Ebonic Sims actually went in and did a whole bunch of mods that way. And they actually started to incorporate it into later versions of the game. But after that, it's
nice.
Before that happened, people had to do it themselves.
So I got a few more questions before we go on break because it's about that time. First off, I want to know, how do you pick your cosplays? Like, how do you pick like, oh yeah, you're getting done. I'm gonna be you. Like, there's no way to say that and not be creepy.
No, I get what you mean though. It's usually a combination of like, so because I am someone who takes a lot of time with my cosplays and I do mostly like complex armor builds and stuff. So it takes me a long time. So I can't churn out costumes. Nothing wrong with that. Some people choose to do that. I like to take a lot of time over mine. So I usually go by like a combination of how much do I love this design and want to spend time trying to replicate it, and like how much am I going to learn from it, how much fun am I going to have making it and wearing it, and then combined with how much I love the character. Like, there have been times where I've made something just because I really liked the look of it and I liked the idea of making that thing, even though I didn't really like particularly care for the game or the character or whatever. So I made like Winston's mask from Watch Dogs Legion, which I never even ended up playing, and I haven't played any of the other Watch Dogs games, but they just released this really cool promo art of like, that's what I heard. They released this really cool promo art of like this guy in a pig mask, and I really like making creature masks, as I said, like going into prosthetics this year. So like, I just wanted to challenge myself to make like a full creature mask that looked like that. But then there's characters like Miss Marvel and Aloy and Cassandra, where I really, really love the character and also loved the costume and wanted to make and wear that costume to embody that character. And with something like Aloy, there's also like multiple costumes you could pick from. So I spent ages like picking which one I wanted to do. Oh my God, that cat is so cute. I can't handle it.
I know, right?
Just the way that they just go like up into your face.
That's Pisces showing out. Have you ever started a cosplay and then realized that you were in for a lot more than you expected?
I mean, every time. So I've been working on Ares from the game Hades for ages now, and it's basically finished. I have to do like 2 things and then it's done, but I just like hit a wall with actually wanting to do it for some reason. But I will get back to it. But like the design on the surface looks quite simple, but then once you get down into actually making it and turning it into a 3D thing, it was a lot more complex than I'd initially assumed it might be, because it was, if you're not familiar with the character design, he has what kind of resembles like what we traditionally think of as like Greek armor, but with more of like a big oversized, like stylized element to it. And then on the breastplate is like this like vulture face, which I decided to sculpt onto the breastplate and make 3-dimensional. And then also like he only appears in the game with artwork that shows him from the waist up. So I had to design the armor on the legs and stuff. So it just ended up being a lot more work than I had initially anticipated. Also, it's white armor, which again, a fucking bitch to paint. So, so every single time I was like, oh yeah, I thought because I'd made Aloy, like painting white armor would be a lot easier now, but this is different because it's like a cartoony, stylized armor, not like realistic looking armor like Aloy is. So there's like another element to it that makes it a bit more difficult, which is trying to not make it look too cartoony, but also not trying to make it look too real. It's like a really weird
Would you make the helmet wearable? Because in the art, he just carries the helmet around.
So it is technically wearable. I've made it. It's like too big for my head. I did that deliberately because I wanted it to look cool while I was holding it. But when I have like the wig on, the crown that's like in the hair will make it impossible to actually put the helmet on. But I could like remove the crown or the wig and then put the helmet on, for example. It just wouldn't maybe look as good as if I had actually made it to wear, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's one thing I think I love the most about the cosplay hobby, which is like when you put all this together, there's got to be some point where you just think about the character like, there's no way you're wearing this. There's no way you're doing this day in and day out.
Oh yeah,
this is impractical as shit.
Having worn like my Aloy cosplay, I'm just like, I don't see how this bitch goes swimming in this outfit. Like, it's just not possible. And I would say my Aloy cosplay, of my cosplays that involve armor, is my most comfortable armored cosplay. Like, hands down. It's the one I can move the most in. It's the one I can sit down in. It's the one I can like do poses that aren't just standing the most easily in. Like, I can't sit down in my Cassandra cosplay. I can just about sit down in my Dragonborn cosplay from Skyrim. I could probably sit down in my Lara Croft cosplay actually, because I did like the armor from Rise of the Tomb Raider. I could sit down in that. I just haven't worn it a lot. But like,
costumes you can and can't say.
Yeah, there's like a scale of like which costume is the easiest to like sit down and eat a meal in, to which costume am I just committing to not eating and not sitting all day.
And then there's the people that go that extra mile where you need like a valet in order to actually wear your costume and walk around a con.
Yeah.
So, a buddy of mine, and this is where this question comes from. A buddy of mine went as Lulu from Final Fantasy X, and like, and I was just, and that's what made me realize, like, cosplayers get to see, oh, there's no way this character could ever actually be in this outfit.
There is
like
no way Lulu was like going on adventures, riding chocobos, fighting like enemies up on the deck of the airship while it's flying around. There is no way.
The dress is made out of belts.
Like there's a bit of that game where they're wandering around a desert for like 2 hours. I'm just like, no, Lulu's dead.
You're wearing all black and you have a fur collar. What are you doing?
Yeah, and like dragging that belt dress through the sand while Titus and Riku run around in their shorts. Like,
my job as their like friend at the con was like, sometimes some of these belts gonna get undone. You gotta redo my belt dress.
I think what I'd do if I made that would be to like, because she's wearing like a dress, but you could make it as a separate skirt. And I think I'd make the skirt so that you could somehow like undo it and detach it and be wearing like shorts underneath so that you can just step out of the skirt for like a break and then step back into it and do it back up again.
See, I wouldn't have thought about that. And that's kind of why I just love seeing people with other skills go to work on that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's no way Lulu was doing a goddamn thing, especially with even outfits that we think of as appearing to be practical. So like I used Aloy as an example. I think her like regular outfit would probably be fine, but a lot of her like the more armored ones and stuff, like if she would be able to run around and stuff, but not like all the like climbing and like rolling around and stuff, like, so yeah, even sometimes the outfits that we think of as being more practical looking, once you actually try and make and wear them, you're like, oh no. no. Which is why I kind of get, well, I get heated on two occasions. One, when movie reviewers are just like, it looks like a cosplayer made this, because like, buddy, come on. But then I also get mad when fanboys are just like, the cosplayers did the costumes better than the movies did. And I'm talking specifically about Faye Valentine and Cowboy right now.
Fun fact, I tweeted about that whole thing, responding to someone who was like comparing a cosplayer to the actual like costume in the show. And I just said like, tell me you know nothing about either cosplay or costume design for screen without telling me you know nothing about either cosplay or costume design for screen. And that is now my like most liked, most retweeted, like biggest tweet ever. I had to mute it. I don't know what it's on now, but it was on my like tens of thousands. And I was just like, I can't deal with it. I can't deal with this. But
it goes back to us not understanding. It goes back to us not understanding women. Like, honestly.
It's like partially that, but also I think there's like an aspect there of like I said, like not understanding either cosplay or costume design for screen, because they are related skills, but they're not the same thing. So like the way I make cosplays wouldn't be the way I would want costumes designed for like to be in a TV show or in a play to be done, because you can cut corners when you're cosplaying in a way that you can't when it has to be worn by an actor on a set.
Yeah.
And like
because
there's
different stunts.
There's different, there's stunts, there's like multiples of the same costume being made for a film production usually. Like there's even stuff like so for example, like Iron Man, like a lot of the time they CGI that outfit, but there are like bits of the costume that would be made like practically, but it will be like small parts. It would be like an arm, a leg, a helmet, and
or like just the chest piece up for that specific close-up shot. Yeah,
exactly. And they all have different purposes. And so when you're making a cosplay, you're making an outfit that you're gonna like walk around in and do photo shoots in. And when you're designing costumes for film, I mean, not only do I agree that they should have updated Faye's outfit, because frankly her anime design is ridiculous and it wouldn't fly these days, but like also you're thinking about different things. Yeah, you're thinking about different things. Also, you are designing. Cosplayers may do some designing. You do sometimes do like original characters or your own take on a design, but you're also usually replicating. So there's different skills involved, and all of them are valid, and all of them are skills that take work and talent to do, but like it's not exactly the same thing. You can't just take a cosplay and put it on the set of a Netflix series. Like you can't.
No, doesn't work.
There is one costume right now that I have to get your opinion on. I can't let this end without us getting the opinion on the Riddler. What do you think of the Riddler's new design?
That new one. So
that reaction tells me everything. Let's keep going.
So I think my issue with it comes more from like my opinion of Batman movies in general, which is that I just wish they'd stop making Batman movies for a start. That's just my personal thing. I'm just sick of it. I'm also sick of how miserable and like edgy and gritty they all are. That's just like, I'm just kind of sick of it. Like, have we not moved past the need for more Batman movies? More miserable Batman movies where you can't see what's going on and everyone just looks like they don't want to be there. And so I think that like that costume design makes sense given the kind of movie they're trying to make, but that doesn't mean I have to like it.
I for one hate it.
Yeah, I don't like it. I just, there's part of me that I understand why sometimes studios try to make superhero movies feel a bit more grounded. I can understand the desire to not make it too silly, but also superheroes are inherently silly. Let them be silly and brightly colored and wear the yellow spandex sometimes. Like, I kind of want more of that now because we've gone so far into the like superhero movies are for serious grown-ups. It's all dark and gritty, that some of the joy's been lost especially in the DC stuff, like the miserable like black Superman suit and like, no, Superman can't wear color. He can't be a joyous figure of hope anymore. He has to be dark and serious and gritty and moody.
That so much.
Like,
here's another evil Superman.
Yeah.
How about another evil Superman? Like, come on, man.
Like, a character being joyous and bright and colorful doesn't necessarily mean that there can't be meaning behind it. Like, Superman is an immigrant story. If you updated Superman and you still wanted to have it be like hopeful and bright and colorful, you could say cast a South American actor or like an Arab actor and have it literally be like more on the surface a story about an immigrant. Like, there's a ton of ways to update Superman without it being dark and gritty and miserable. And even if you still wanted him to be a white guy, you could still make it a movie or whatever about like the immigrant story. Like,
God, like being any sort of minority in America grants you superpowers, but they all suck. But one of the superpowers that we have, I truly believe, is like, as you were describing a Middle Eastern Superman, I could already see the Fox News segment. Like, it is just like, yeah, I hate this.
Yeah, there was recently that thing that the character in like the new comics, again, not up to date on the comics, I literally find out what's going on through the controversies on Twitter. Like Superman's son, who's taken up the mantle of Superman, being bisexual, and people lost their fucking minds, and it's like, it's not gonna kill you. Honestly.
What about the children?
What about the children? And there was a great there was an interview, I think it was on British TV, with like a guy who was basically being like, this is terrible, we shouldn't have Superman be gay or bisexual or whatever, but he kept saying, like, if you want to make a bisexual superhero or a gay superhero, you should just make a new superhero who's LGBT, not take an old superhero and change them. And then the people kept saying, but they literally did that. This is Superman's son. This is Clark Kent's son. This isn't Clark Kent. It's his son, Jonathan. So it's Superman, but it's not the same Superman. They literally did what you're suggesting. And he was just like, well, they shouldn't change it. And just like, couldn't engage with the conversation any further.
Because they always start at a point of
their logic. Yeah.
They always start at a point of bad faith. They pick the points that they want to prove their own biases, and then they continue to try and perpetuate a narrative without actually doing any proper research.
Yeah. And you can often tell that it's just people like parroting talking points they've heard somewhere else say maybe somewhere else on the internet, on certain YouTube channels or blogs or something from certain types of people.
YouTube is working its ass off to make people extremists.
Yeah. And that's a whole other conversation.
Speaking of extremists, there's currently a war.
Here we go.
In the TTRPG community. And I gotta be honest, I've been afraid to ask you this because I really like you and I don't want you to be on the wrong side of this war. So here we go.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know, a lot of pressure right now. There are those who believe that dice exist for crunching.
The forbidden
to put in your mouth and just kind of just crunch on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are those of us on the other side of this war that say don't put dice in your mouth. That's disgusting. We call ourselves the Stop the Crunch Brigade.
I can see my boyfriend in the chat being like, oh no, because he knows my feelings on
it. So I feel the need to cue up the soundboard. Issa, what side of this war are you on?
So, I personally understand why it's unhygienic to put your dice in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I would only do it with my dice, because the thing is, they do look really tasty. They look like candy. Look, crunch the dice. Crunch the dice.
No!
But make sure you're hygienic about it, especially during this pandemic. So make sure that you decontaminate your dice, and you only do this with your dice because you know where they've been.
I was so scared. I was getting crotch vibes from you this whole time. I'm like, no.
Crunch Crew Crunch Box.
No.
Mimi the Mimic
with some caveats.
Oh, no, you know what? It's fine.
So I'll just leave. Yeah, this is over.
No, it's fine. Lock them up. I have other questions that I have to ask.
We've also been at this for about an hour and a half, though, so do we want to go to break and ask the rest of them? But that one does hurt.
Okay, yeah, we can go to break. We'll be back in minutes.
We'll be back in a couple of minutes. We'll see you soon.
I'm not going to commit to anything.
Okay. Talk to you in a bit. And we're back.
Hello.
Yellow.
Welcome back.
All right. So on the second half, that's the dark roast where we get into more serious topics, or at least that's what we claim. We never actually do it. But I do have more questions
People
on the TTR.
To see her again.
Oh yeah!
So
oh my god!
Here is my mimic that I made.
Okay, fuck whatever question I was about to ask. How did you make that? Like, what is that made?
Well, I'm making a video tutorial of it right now, so
I
can't spill all the secrets. But basically, I bought a chest, like a small chest, and then I sculpted on top of it to make the mimic.
I am going to be watching that episode of how to make that.
Yeah, but smaller. So it was I think it was plywood or balsa wood or some shitty little thing that cost £2, and then I sculpted to make the dish.
You can draw sculpt. So stop it.
Oh, I can barely sew. I'm not very good at sewing. It's like my cosplay weakness is sewing, definitely.
I could barely.
I was about to be like, your cosplays are public. Like, I can see that. That's not... And if that's what you can do with bad sewing, never get good at sewing. I'm just kidding. But holy smokes! So how did you end up in the TTRPG space? I mean, I don't mean that kind of sounds bogus when I ask it that way. Yes. What are you
How
doing
dare
here?
you?
But like,
Leave.
No,
Was
never
was
that.
this what your question was going to be, or?
No, my question before, I don't remember what it was because I have ADHD.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No,
I feel
you're
bad now
good.
because I know what it's like.
Oh.
I have a shit short-term memory as well.
Thank you for understanding. But yeah, like how so I'm always curious, especially with people that like get into the streaming aspect of like actual plays and everything. How did you end up here? Because I know I ended up here on accident. So
Same. It wasn't something that I was like, I want to do this. I was quite lucky in some ways. It's also quite tricky because basically the show that got me into the scene is a show I no longer am part of, and that whole thing was quite like messy and traumatic for me. So I won't talk about that. But basically,
right.
yeah, I was on a D&D show, and then through trying to do some like marketing research and getting more into the community for that show, ended up kind of like befriending people in the community and going to, right before the pandemic happened, I went to what's it called? The London TTRPG community like networking event. I think it's called TIN, short for TIN, TTRPG. I can't remember what it stands for. I'm so sorry. But yeah, it was like a networking event for like people involved in TTRPG in whatever kind of like professional-ish capacity. And so I went there with a view to like promote the show and try to find out about some other shows and stuff in the space and get more like just network basically, because that's what I'm used to doing for my day job. And then
that's that grind, that's that hustle.
Exactly. And then through that, I ended up meeting a couple of people who I'm still friends with, who I still stream with, and they invited me to be on like other streamed shows with them back in like the very, very start of the pandemic in 2020. And because pandemic and being a freelance theatre practitioner meant that I no longer had a job all of a sudden, I had a lot of time on my hands, and I'm also quite a like social person, and was suddenly just like, how the fuck am I gonna not die of like social deprivation and boredom during this pandemic? And basically discovered like TTRPG streaming and felt like it was a good way to keep up something that felt like creative and semi-related to like theatre and film stuff, because it, you know, there's a lot of crossover, but also felt very social. And, you know, I have been living on my own since before the pandemic started. So when you live on your own and you can't go out and can't see your friends and family, it gets real lonely. So it gave me a way to also still like be able to socialize in a way that wasn't like, what I found during the pandemic was that whenever I would have like Zoom calls or Discord calls or whatever with my friends, my home friends, unless it was about something or to do something, we would just end up talking about the pandemic, and it was really depressing.
Yeah.
So it meant that I could do that in a way that wasn't only ever going to end up, we just talk about the pandemic. And so I did some streaming on Scraticus Academy before all the stuff that happened with them, and Chromatic Chimera, and then eventually also got involved with the Asians Represent podcast, and
that's
did
an
like
amazing podcast, by the way.
Aren't they? I don't feel much ownership over making it amazing. I think they're amazing. I'm constantly just like, wow, I'm part of this. That's cool. That's neat.
I relate to that as well.
So yeah, I did like a one-off podcast with them talking about the art in one of the I think it was AD&D Oriental Adventures, if I remember correctly, or maybe 3rd edition, I can't quite remember. But and then they asked me back to do their longer running series on Al-Qadim, and have also done a few other like one-off podcasts with them. Last year I did the episode on like clothing in fantasy media, so like costume design in fantasy media, including in TTRPGs. And then I also like spearheaded, organized, and hosted an episode on mixed race representation in TTRPGs and fantasy media, including sci-fi as well. And have a few more things in the works with them right now.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I finally, because I even though the initial show I spoke about, I ended up feeling very negatively about it, and some not so positive things happened. I had still managed to, within that time, find a foothold and find other people of color, namely, was like the main thing, and people I enjoyed streaming with as well, and like made friends. So I think if I hadn't done that, then when that show fell apart for me, I probably would have just washed my hands of it. But because I'd actually felt like I finally found a way to connect with the TTRPG community, because I realized like, oh, it's there are other women and people of color and queer people here. It meant that I wanted to stick around for my own reasons now. And then, and I did enjoy streaming, but just in more positive ways.
I was gonna say kudos to you, because like, you know, just with what we do, like a traumatic experience with a show or a channel can be like, it can shake you to your core, like, you know, and so like, just kudos for keeping going, because we need more people like you in the space more than anything else.
Thanks.
Seconded.
Thank you. But yeah, I think the other times I tried to get into TTRPGs, and there were other times, like I mentioned, like I either came across gatekeeping behavior, bigoted behavior, or it wasn't quite what I was looking for. So like at one point I did play a D&D and then Dungeon World and then Scum and Villainy, very short-lived campaigns with my friends, and you know, obviously love my friends, but we all were kind of wanting different things from it, and it just didn't quite work as a long-running campaign. So like some people saw it more of a casual, I go hang out with my friends, so while we play D&D I get drunk, right? And we're all kind of like, I mean, we can get drunk after, but I don't know if you should really just like get blitzed right before we play the game.
Oh, I've played with one of them. I had the unique experience of playing with somebody who got better at the game the drunker they became. It was kind of
I can play while a bit drunk, but I know that it does affect the way I'm going to play. So that's fine. Like some people just want different things from the game, and that's fine. But I kind of was feeling like I'd really like to try like RPing and like trying to have like a cool storyline for my character, and it just kind of wasn't
you weren't
what
getting
that group was feeling. So then I had managed to find groups where I could do that, and other people like me in the space, and also crucially people having conversations about the problematic stuff in TTRPGs, because even though I like D&D, let's not pretend there aren't a myriad of problems with it when it comes to representation of all different kinds of groups.
I made the mistake of dipping my toe in that whole, it was like a year and a half ago or something, I think, where we had the ogre debate.
Yeah.
We just got
oh shit! Hi, hello Raiders.
Hey, Kate.
Hi, Katie Source. Welcome in, Raiders. Good to see you all. There's a lot of you. Oh boy. Hi.
We're about to dunk on D&D. Let's go.
Let's go.
We're picking a fight with the grognards. Get in here, nerds. No, but like when we had that orc debate, and I said, I think I said one thing, and then my notification thing it was like 20 plus for like a week, and I was just like, I'm not gonna do this again.
Yeah, like I think it's a shame that you can't like have an actually interesting discussion about the issues with, say, like representation of race in D&D without your comments just getting flooded with a bunch of people who want to just drag us all back to like basic bitch 101, like race and gender 101 shit. Like,
and I played with a woman one time.
Yeah. Are you suggesting that orcs don't have to be evil? Like, I'm suggesting a lot more than that, mate. If that's the bar you're at, then you're not going to have a good time in this conversation. I'm sorry.
J.R.R. Tolkien said, like, listen here.
Elves can only be white.
If you're a black elf, you're a drow.
Oh my god. And yeah, it's just like yeah, so finding people who are actually having those conversations in a more in-depth way than just, wow, have you ever thought about the fact that maybe you can make a drow who isn't evil?
Like, only one of those exists, and his name is Jizzard, and he's the greatest thing that ever happened. I'll kill all of you. I love pissing off grognards.
Me too.
It is a good time.
But yeah, like I remember once tweeting about like how D&D is very Christian centric and kind of pushes Christian ideals, and people did not like that. But the thing is, it does. Like, you can talk about the satanic panic all you fucking want, but I'm sorry, like, Gygax was a hardcore Christian. So much of the shit in it is based on Tolkien, and it does promote a very, like, Christian lawful good is the correct morality ideal through many different means. Clerics, paladins, Aasimar. Like,
I was just about to be like, Paladin is my favorite class, but it's got way too much of a crusader type feel for my liking.
I avoided playing a paladin for so long because the fact that they were just so obviously crusaders made me so uncomfortable. And now I do play a paladin, but I very deliberately, she's a paladin who worships Dionysus. She's here to party, like, and she doesn't try to push her religious beliefs on anyone. She's just like, hey, if you want to party, Dionysus is cool with that. You don't have to worship him, but you can still have a good time. Like, I don't want to play a paladin who's going around trying to convert people and being like, did you just break the law? I will strike you down with my holy sword. Like, just, I have no interest in that whatsoever.
Like, it sucks that paladin is such a dope ass class because it's just like, I know the historical context to this, but that's sweet light damage though.
Me just being like, my Syrian ancestors rolling in their graves over me playing a paladin in D&D.
I'm hoping beyond hope that with the new edition that comes out that we get a lot of changes. We need to make a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Especially with the monk, which is my favorite class, but like it's not great, y'all. It's not great.
The monk is a weird one, because I do know some people who go like, who say that they like having the monk because they feel like then they can play something that represents them if they're Asian. But I also know people who are like, the monk is reductive. It's weird that there's one class that is the othered Orientalist Asian class, which I agree with. And like, just on a like mechanics and theming level, a character who fights in hand-to-hand combat doesn't necessarily have to be like Asian martial arts coded. Like, you could make a pugilist type of class, but have it be able to be themed to multiple different things. So you could have like the Asian martial artist type thing, or you could have like a British boxer. Like, there's so many different types of like hand-to-hand combat. It doesn't have to be Asian coded.
I mean, and it's also, there's also that kind of like coding where it's like, it sort of dives into that religious aspect where like a monk is like someone with solitary study and like an ascetic sword.
So I'm designing a game, and I actually did call. There's two different classes for essentially what was the monk. There's the pugilist, and then there's the mixed martial arts artist. And you can learn from different blocks if you're the pugilist, like you're from the block that fights like this, or you can go to different camps if you're the MMA artist. And then there is the traditional. The traditional, or not traditional, but there is monk as it's presented with some tweaks. Jesus. But like, that's one of the camps that you can choose for your MMA artist. It's just like, I one of the things that I think most bothers me is just the enthusiasm that like white dudes have about creating Asian-based settings.
It's this very odd thing where like, for some reason when it comes to Asian stuff, and very specifically, like, it used to be East Asian stuff, now I think it's more like Swana coded, like Swana region stuff, where white people just seem to think that there's no problem with them just marching in and being like, this is ours now, we're making the thing, we're representing you, and very poorly usually.
That's the line that's really starting to piss me off. We're representing you, like, how about move?
Or how about POC represent themselves?
Exactly. It just, and there's also an issue of like, you know, if someone wants to do that in their home game, I don't necessarily have a problem with it, especially if I'm not there to fucking suffer through it. Like, I'd wish that they wouldn't, but I have no power to stop it. But like, when it's a thing that's like being published and it's something that's going to make a group of people a lot of money, and they're not people from that region, and they're basically co-opting the image of that region within the space for the foreseeable future, I have a problem with it. And that I do think there's a conversation to be had about like the different levels of creating content based on other cultures. Like, do we want to gatekeep all cultures only to the cultures of the people making it? Like, no, but also those people haven't had the chance to represent themselves yet. And also it's wrong for white people to make a bunch of money off of misrepresenting like Swana people or East Asian people or whatever.
Like, I worry about that. Essentially, I had lucky enough to talk to a few designers, and I always ask them, like, you know, what do you see for the future of your setting? Like, what are some of your plans? And without fail, it's just like, oh, I think I want to do like
Asian expansion.
Asian expansion. And it's just like,
that's the other thing, is like Asia is an expansion. Asia is a tag-on thing. It's this really weird, like, it always happens. It happened in like World of Warcraft, but they did like, I don't play World of Warcraft, but I remember seeing like, oh, we're going to this new place, there are panda people here, and I was like, fuck me. But then the same in TTRPGs, where it's like, we've got the base setting, Faerun, and now we have Oriental Adventures in Al-Qadim, the Asian bits, as a tag-on at the end kind of thing, like an expansion. It's the other. It's literally Orientalism.
It always happens though. Like, like, what do you see for the future? Asian adventure. And then like the next line is, oh, and we're definitely going to get a sensitivity consultant. And I'm just like,
why not hire actual writers who are actually Asian? Or just let them do it. You don't have to own it.
So I guess this is a question that I didn't expect to ask, but like, I'm generally mulling it over. And how do I even ask this? It's just like, I think that some people see safety consultants and things like that as shields. Mm-hmm. And it's frustrating.
Shields to protect them from criticism.
Yeah. Right. I'm not a sensitivity consultant, so I can't speak like for people who are, but I do know that I've seen sensitivity consultants, especially for like POC sensitivity consultants, talking about exactly that, being like, just because you hired a sensitivity consultant doesn't mean you can do no wrong, doesn't mean you get to pin the blame on them when you ignore what they've said. To them. Yeah, it doesn't mean you're necessarily listening to them. Like, yeah, like I would agree with that sentiment, but I'm also aware that I'm not a sensitivity consultant.
Y'all don't have to join me on this ledge, because this is where I wild out.
Are you gonna hit the button?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Just in advance, because I'm about to go wild. I've seen some people that have called themselves safety consultants that have directly been racist and shit to me. So it's just like, that's not necessarily an immediate shield in my eyes. That's all I'm saying.
And even then, one person can't account for a multitude of experiences. Mm-hmm. Also, are you hiring, say for example, you're writing like a Swana-based setting, and you hire a sensitivity consultant, and they are a person of color, but they're not Swana. Like, they're not actually going to have the cultural context that is required for that. Mm-hmm. They're not sensitivity consultants are not interchangeable. Also, I know from people I know who are consultants that sometimes they ask their names to be removed from things because people don't listen to them, and then they don't like the final product and don't want to be associated with it.
This space is wild.
But I also think that sensitivity consultants, when used right, when used well, are a very like necessary thing. But I also kind of wish that the impression I get is that very often you'll get a case where it's like a team of white people, for example, writing, let's say, an Asian setting, or there's something to do with like disability in the thing that they're writing, and they hire a consultant who is a good consultant who can tell them exactly what's wrong with all of it, but there's no one actually on the writing team, on the creation team, who is either from that culture or who is disabled or whatever, to actually be the one creating the representation for people like them, which I don't think that sensitivity consultants should be the only person from that group represented in the creation process of that setting or that book or whatever.
I mean, yeah, because as far as I understand it, and I don't understand much very well, so just take that for what that's worth. A safety consultant or sensitivity consultant is basically, their job is to filter through what's presented to make sure that what's being put out isn't harmful. Their job is not to create anything new, which is why we need more representation in the writer's room. Sensitivity consultants are the solution. It's part of the solution, but it's not the solution.
Like you very much need
editing process. It's not part of your creating process.
I mean, I have also seen some sensitivity consultants say they wish they were brought on earlier in the process. And I know that, like, I think you very much need the representation on like both of those sides of things. So like, even if there are writers from the culture that's being written about, you know, a sensitivity consultant isn't just someone from a particular culture or a particular background or group that can go, oh, that's a bit racist or that's a bit ableist. That like being a sensitivity consultant is a skill set that you develop. Right. So someone who's a writer or an artist isn't necessarily going to notice things that a sensitivity consultant might. So for example, like I'm working on something I'll very tenuously call a supplement. In which I'm trying to explore themes both involving like being mixed race and being from the Swana region or descended from the Swana region. And I am still gonna find someone to sensitivity consult on that because I can't know every possible pitfall, even as someone from both those intersections. Like, I would still want to hire someone who can give an outside eye with their expertise and help me make sure that it's not going to do something accidentally insensitive. Right. And there needs to be that on both sides of the thing.
I mean, I get that. I completely get that, because there have been times where I've been asked, hey, as a black guy, let me get your eyes on this. What do you see? And I'm just like, dude, like I'm not trained for that.
Yeah.
Like, I think one of the things is we have to understand that there are unconscious biases in everybody's culture growing up. So I don't know what I don't know, and I can't be responsible for you putting out something that I might have missed, you know?
A single person is not a monolith for an entire culture.
Exactly. And I think it kind of comes from that same sort of mentality of like, oh, if someone who's, say, disabled talks about disability, they are automatically a disability advocate or activist. And that's not, and the same for like a person of color who speaks about race issues. That's just being the thing and talking about it doesn't necessarily mean that you are an activist.
Exactly.
And that's something people say, like, don't call me an activist because I'm not. That's a very specific thing. And so I guess like there could be a similar mentality of like, well, here's a Black person who can talk about Black representation in media. They should be a sensitivity consultant on the project you're doing. And it's like, but they're not a sensitivity consultant. You need someone who's actually a sensitivity consultant and who has the aligning background.
Marshadi says you need to lean into it and put it on your resume. 5+ years experience of being a Black guy.
Well, the second they find out I'm a black guy, they're not going to pick up the resume. Too real this morning. Anyway, there are some questions that we need to ask you. And we're just going to jump right into them because I don't feel like doing a segue.
Okay.
If you could play with any 5 people that are alive right now, any TTRPG that you want, and you get to choose who's GM. I love the face that this question gets for people.
No, you don't understand. You don't understand. I'm dyslexic with terrible short-term memory recall. I now can't remember the names of any people, famous or otherwise.
Nobody exists.
Nobody exists right now.
Oh God, I love putting people on the spot. It's so bogus, but it's so fun. If you can't think of any alive, you can also do dead as well. We'll be playing with ghosts.
There are no humans on the planet Earth.
Vin Diesel plays D&D, right?
Yeah.
Having just watched like all the Fast and the Furious movies back to back last year, I want to play with Vin Diesel. I think that'll be really fucking fun.
Did you watch them all back to back?
So I'd only seen like a couple of them, and I saw people talking about how they're basically like superhero movies now, and I was like, this sounds fucking wild. I wanna watch these, and I watched all of them except the second one because my partner watched that one without me.
Wow.
He has also said in the chat, fuck Vin Diesel, give me The Rock. Yes, I want to play with The Rock as well. I think that would be really fun. Like,
wait, are you going to have Vin Diesel and The Rock at your table? Yeah. Oh my God, this is going to be a drama-filled table and I'm here for it. They're going to be so passive-aggressive at each other. It's
going to be great.
Nat wants The Rock to GM.
Oh no! Vin Diesel's not gonna have a great time. What's the DC? 1? It's whatever you roll plus 1. Fuck you.
Make them play Shadowrun.
Oh God!
Oh no! What kind of chaos is that going for?
What do you think Vin Diesel would play? I feel like Vin Diesel would play a Decker. In Shadowrun.
Look, I'm not gonna pretend I know what the fuck Shadowrun is.
Shadowrun. Yeah, I don't know.
I
don't know anything about Shadowrun other than that it's way too complicated.
It is very complicated. I've played 3rd edition and 4th edition Shadowrun.
I tried to play Shadowrun once and I flunked, and I didn't know I was being graded.
I remember none of the rules, and I've played a lot of Shadowrun.
I opened the book and got a report card immediately afterwards. All right, so we've got The Rock and Vin Diesel together, which that's an explosive. There's too much man. Just all abs and chest.
Yeah, we need to balance things out. So I saw on Twitter that Gail Simone got super into TTRPGs last year as well. So I feel like Gail Simone would be able to balance out that energy really well.
I feel like Gail Simone would appreciate being at that table. I need to watch my mouth. I would say something and Gail Simone's gonna beat my ass. All right. So we got The Rock, Vin Diesel, Gail Simone.
Me, obviously.
I almost suggested 2 people. I mean, since you've already got 2 people that are already beefing, you might as well pick up Elmo and Rocco.
Yes.
Just get it going.
That would be so fun. But also, so given how much I critique Orientalism in TTRPGs, I want to play a TTRPG with Edward Said, the writer of the book Orientalism, and then Elmo and Rocco.
I gotta be honest with you. This might be the best table we've ever fucking heard. I don't think anybody leaves that table alive. I think Elmo finally snaps and he takes out everybody.
Elmo's gonna kill everyone.
Well, if Rocco's there, Zoe has to be there too, though.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Because Zoe has
Because
to speak
Rocco
for
doesn't
Rocco.
exist, and Zoe has to speak for Rocco.
Rocco
The
does.
Rock!
Rocco doesn't know how to play D&D. Rocco's just a rock.
Everybody's just waiting on Rocco when it's his turn on the initiative.
Rocco and the Rock at one table. Emma's gonna flip. He's gonna be like, "This Rock is a person. No, we can't let this happen to Rocco."
Rocco and the
Rocco
Rock.
becomes the Rock. Like the table, we're just coming up with a storyline now. Oh my god. How has The Rock not made that? Like, that's an easy bag for The Rock right now. Is just go to Sesame Street.
He did tweet about it, didn't he? I saw.
Did he? I didn't. I must have missed that.
Yeah, because I think the official Elmo account, like the verified Elmo account, tweeted something about like, "Oh, rocks aren't people. Rocks can't eat food." Blah blah blah. And then The Rock like quote tweeted it and was like, "This Rock eats this amount of calories per day," and like went through his fucking diet or something.
Yeah, has anybody ever seen a Rock eat a cookie? Elmo just curious. Yes, my friend, this Rock devours cookies, all kinds of cookies. I'll introduce you to cheat meals, it'll change your life. Tell Cookie Monster to move over because I'm coming to Sesame Street to kick ass and eat cookies. And I'm almost out of cookies. Rock.
I think that's today's shirt, which is Rocco's The Rock. Oh my god. See, this is why the second half is never the dark brew, because I did not expect to be a little giggly bitch right now, but here we are.
I think it's because our tiredness hits a stride at the second half.
Well, here's a segue that's always a downer. Let's talk about we've talked about Rock being that guy. Let's talk about other bad guys. Oh, that was bad.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, it's coming. Anita, would you like to do it?
The spiel.
Yeah, go ahead, give it to us.
If you have been in the TTRPG space long enough, chances are that you have played at what we like to describe as a black hole of fun at the table. Someone who, if they were hurled directly into the sun, your experience at the table would improve dramatically. That is what we refer to as a that guy. So, Isa, tell us, have you experienced a that guy?
Just so you can kind of gauge the level of that guys that we've dealt with. We've had that guys as mild as like a railroading GM to as severe as a neck-biting gaslighter. That's the face.
Excuse me?
there it is.
Wow.
A GM was offering to help a new player create a character, help them create it incorrectly, bit them on the neck, and then pretended it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So was this like a Vampire the Masquerade game, and that's why they felt they could get away with it or something?
No, this is D&D.
No.
Apparently
No, this
they're
is
in prison now.
This is just a guy that...
I'm not surprised. Oh god, I mean, I feel like that guy embodies like a very specific idea in most people's minds, which I have thankfully for the most part managed to avoid. I think largely because I got into TTRPGs like later on, like in my like late 20s when I was more able to like curate my spaces a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I had experienced stuff like that in like the cosplay world before that. But I do remember
cosplay that guy.
I will do some cosplay that guys. But I will say like, so like the very first time I ever played D&D, I was like 12 or 13 or something, like a kid. And the person who was GMing for us, this was with like a group of friends from school, and the person who was DMing was like a few years older than us. Also actually female. So it wasn't a that guy, it was a that girl, but exhibited that kind of behavior of like you know, we were a bunch of 12-year-olds who wanted to have fun and made, yes, very silly characters. And, you know, maybe weren't taking it as seriously as a 16-year-old might have been like demanding we take it. And got like very, very angry and was like, no, your character can't be like this because elves have to be like this, or no, your character can't be like this because rangers have to be like that, and that kind of behavior. And to the point where it was like, there was like a moment where there was like almost a physical altercation. And then me and my best friend were just like, we're just gonna leave and like probably not talk to you again, actually, and just fucked off. That was my first experience of playing D&D. And sadly, because it was like so long ago, I don't remember like the actual specifics, but I remember that it was very much like me and my friend wanted to play quite like outlandish characters, were being quite silly and joking around because we were literally 12. And this like older girl from school was like so angry about it that there was like nearly a physical altercation and we left. But on like a less serious note, like some of the stuff in the cosplay community that's been fun was stuff like when I cosplayed Terra from Final Fantasy VI, who is like in the in-game sprite has green hair, and in the like concept art for the game is blonde, because the artist Yoshitaka Amano just likes to draw blonde women. And I ended up basing my costume more on the Amano artwork because I really like his art.
Right.
So nice. Another Amano fan, yay. And yeah, so I ended up using a blonde wig for my cosplay, and had someone, that guy at the con I was at, tell me that I wasn't cosplaying Terra. I was cosplaying either Celis or Rosa from Final Fantasy IV because they're blonde and Terra isn't blonde. And I was like, Terra has green hair in the game, but blonde hair in the concept art. And I based my costume on the concept art, very obviously. And it just like wouldn't accept that I knew what I was talking about my own costume. Also related to Final Fantasy was the time where I was at a convention, and I picked up off a vendor's stall a CD of like Nobuo Uematsu's music for Final Fantasy. I think it was like one of the concerts or something. And I was with a friend, and I was just like kind of like flipping it over and I love Nobuo Uematsu's music, and my friend knew that. So I was joking with her and being like, oh, it's this guy. And then a guy who wasn't even working at the store was just like standing next to us, leaned over and was like, that's Nobuo Uematsu. He did the music for Final Fantasy, in case you didn't know. And I was just like, I've literally been playing these games since I was like 9 years old.
He really out here taking the most savage L's. Fellas. God damn. Yeah. We steady out here losing.
A pretty fun one that I think might have not been in any kind of like malicious way, but was just genuinely kind of funny, was when I was dressed as Miss Marvel at a convention. It's actually at the last convention I went to before COVID. I was in my Miss Marvel cosplay, and someone took a picture of me in my cosplay with permission, and then was just
Cosplay's
like,
not consent.
So, yeah, and then was like, so are you a Miss Marvel fan?
All right.
And then like all the like 5 friends standing behind me just burst out laughing.
The first 2 I don't feel bad for, but that third guy, wherever you are, third guy, I feel you. I've done that same shit. Wherever you are, third, I know he's reliving that in his head. It's just like, she was in the costume, bro. Like, what the fuck was I doing?
Like, I could have so easily just been trying to make casual conversation and just like failing completely. But it was just so funny because also it was like I was like a cosplay guest at the convention, and on my table I literally had like prints of my Miss Marvel cosplay for sale, and we were standing right next to the table, and my friends were behind the table, and that's why they laughed, because they were like, with the prints.
That dude has definitely had at least 3 dreams about that moment. It's just like, I don't know what I was thinking.
There's so many ways that you could take that as like condescension too, where it's just like, oh, you don't actually like this property, you're just a cosplayer.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, from my memory of it, I don't feel like he was trying to do the like condescending thing, but it happens. Like, so many people just go like, oh, you just cosplay it for popularity. You know, oh, you don't actually like the thing.
You just like the attention.
For attention. Yeah. Which I find hasn't happened to me as much, usually because I'm like, I'm going to make this really obscure costume. So whenever someone recognizes it, like, they're like, oh yes, I'm a fan of that.
I'm so sick of that argument. Like, you're just doing it for attention. Everybody's doing everything for attention on the internet.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't wear silly costumes just by myself for no reason. It doesn't, just because you're doing it to be noticed doesn't mean it's a bad form of wanting attention for it. Like,
just wanting a validation and appreciation is very human. Why are you shaming people for that?
Because
I mean, it usually happens to like, it usually happens to like quote unquote sexy cosplayers. Because it's that whole thing of like, oh, it's a hot girl wearing a band t-shirt. Do you even listen to their songs? Or, oh, it's a hot girl in a League of Legends costume. Do you even play League of Legends? Like, all that shit. It's the same attitude.
I can't. Like, I can't. Like, what? I'm still going through secondhand embarrassment for Third Guy. Like, Third Guy, wherever you are. How I support. But also, it's just, it's like, I hate the metric of like, you know, you've gotta know the band if you wear the shirt. You've got to like know the costume if you wear the costume. Like, nah. Like, no.
But also there's like different people express a love for something in different ways. So like, one way some people express love for something is by like knowing every tiny little minuscule detail about it, knowing like what Spock said in 4 minutes 18 into that one episode of Star Trek. That's not the way everyone likes it, like expressing their appreciation for something. Some people cosplay or make art or whatever, and that doesn't, just because you don't, even if you do like something and are a genuine fan of something, it doesn't mean you have to like know every single tiny detail about it. Like, I love Assassin's Creed. I couldn't fucking tell you shit about the lore at this point because it's so convoluted.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even finish reading the Miss Marvel comic run when it first came out. Like, but I still love the character and she still means something to me. Just different people appreciate things in different ways.
Exactly. And there's no wrong or right way to fucking appreciate something. And if somebody doesn't meet your standards, then your standards are fucked up. Or how dare you hold somebody to a standard, you fucking dick.
And as CrimeNet pointed out, a big it's another big thing. It's different brains have different types of information recall ability. That's a thing that I struggle with, like I joked about earlier, but like genuinely sometimes it's like a frustrating thing. Not everyone can just recall all the information they know immediately or even remember that much stuff in that much detail, you know?
Yeah, I had a Twitter thread recently kind of delving into like how different people think. Like, there are some people that don't have like the voice in their head. Well, I mean, hold on, let me
the narrator.
So I know what you mean.
You know, like the
JD from Scrubs thing.
Yes. Thank you. Oh my God, you saved me. And like, and it kind of made me appreciate that people are so different in ways that I don't think we slow down and appreciate enough. And so, like, you know, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
It costs nothing to be nice to somebody.
Some people can't visualize things in color or with detail and texture.
Yeah. Like, that's actually one other thing, as well as obstacles with like gender and race in TTRPGs. A thing that I did find, which I was quite surprised by, was that I felt like in a lot of ways, people in the TTRPG space often are not very accommodating of people with like different like learning styles, different memory abilities, and like because I'm dyslexic and have like short-term memory recall problems, like found that people would get very like I guess the word would be ableist about like me not remembering every tiny detail of the conversation that just happened in the game, or like taking a longer time, because I'm also dyscalculate, taking a longer time to add up dice rolls. Like you roll a fireball, that's a lot of dice for me to add up when I'm dyscalculate, and I don't need someone leaning over my shoulder and just saying the number without asking me if that's okay.
Yeah.
Like talking about that, guys, like that's another thing. It was like I've had a person do that to me like very consistently through a game, and I really did not like it, and it took me a while to realize why it made me uncomfortable, because as someone who works in an artistic field, I had kind of stopped thinking of my dyslexia and dyscalculia as a disability in a weird way. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like it wasn't impeding me in the way it did when I was doing like exams and stuff like that anymore, because I was in my zone where it was like not a hindrance but a boon. And then TTRPGs, I think, can be very inaccessible for people who do struggle with maths or retaining a lot of information and being able to recall it and like when it's demanded. And people can be very condescending, even if they don't mean to, about that. So yeah, like don't lean over someone's shoulder and just add their dice for them if they haven't asked you to do that for them. It's really rude and ableist.
And not just to say that, it's also just a dick move. You have actually kind of given me confidence in something without you even realizing that you did, which is like I really want to get into cosplay and stuff, but like between body image stuff and like I'm not good at math, and I know like a lot of prop making is like measuring, like you measure twice, cut once, and that kind of thing. Right. That's the kind of stuff that I suck at. Like it's kind of nice to hear like somebody else that's not great with like math and calculations, who I admire so much as a cosplayer. Like the fact that you're able to do that, it's just like, oh, maybe.
I mean, I do struggle with like retaining numbers and stuff in my head, but the thing I find is that when it relates to something visual and physical and real, or that is going to be real and physical, it stops being as much of a problem, because there's something I can relate it to. What I really, and this is just me, other people are different with it, but what I really struggle with is like theoretical mathematics in my head, all the like weird shit with symbols and a bunch of numbers, like just literally relates to nothing as far as I'm concerned in the real world. Like that's what I struggle with. But when you can like, if you're very visual, when you can like see how the pieces are going to fit together, then the numbers start to make more sense. So if that's you, then that might not be as much of a hindrance as you think it might be.
Well, I stupidly bought a 3D printer, so we're gonna figure it out.
Oh hell yeah.
I'm about to just start printing shit till I figure this math stuff out. I did want to have a quick talk with you about conventions, especially having been a guest cosplayer. First off, if you've never been to a con with a cosplayer, I highly recommend it, because it's a whole nother experience.
Get ready to be a pack mule, but yeah, it's a whole other experience.
Not only a pack mule, but like the amount of I get that like everybody thinks different, and so reading body language is not something that everybody is inherently good at. But like, God bless cosplay. I have seen cosplayers like look like they just got done doing like a fucking track meet, like just knees on hands, breathing heavy, like sucking down a water bottle, and people are still like, can I get a picture? Like, holy fuck.
It's really interesting, because like there are definitely people, there's definitely a sort of unspoken almost etiquette around when it's okay to ask for a photo, that cosplayers and cosplay photographers and people who know enough of those people are aware of. And then there are people who have no fucking idea that they're being intrusive or annoying or whatever. But generally speaking, I would say, like, obviously I haven't been to like a cosplay con since January 2020, or maybe it was February 2020. But like I had been saying, like recently I've noticed that the general people who are attending a convention are starting to catch on more to not asking cosplayers for photos when they're eating or half out of costume or sitting down relaxing or whatever. Or they're more polite about it. They'll go like, oh, when you're finished eating, would you mind if I take photos or whatever?
I still think that might be a touch too far, though.
It depends. Like if it's, so that's the thing, is like I've had that before, but it's been like a person who is a photographer, like an actual photographer, not just a random person who wants to take a picture. And I've been like, yeah, let's meet at this time at this place because I know you seriously want to take some good photos of me. Right. Which is, sorry to say, different from just like random person with phone wants a quick photo.
Right. Shout out to the photographers out there too.
Oh yeah. But I had a really interesting experience with doing a cosplay shoot, not at a convention, but still in a public space with lots of people, when I did a photo shoot for the Cosplay Journal, which we did at the British Museum. And that was my Cassandra cosplay. We got special permission to go and do a photo shoot there, like in the actual museum. So like with all the Greek artifacts and stuff for the Cassandra cosplay. Cool. And then there was someone else in cool. Zelda cosplay, Sheik cosplay, who took photos in like the East Asian section. It was really cool. Volume 3 of the Cosplay Journal, if anyone's interested. And we got there like really early. So we took the bulk of our photos before there were many people in the museum, but we were still around trying to shoot stuff in some of the more public areas when there was quite a crowd of people. And the difference between people knowing how to be around cosplayers at a convention and people in a museum with no fucking clue was just like weirdly shocking.
No clue, because people would just,
like no context for what we were doing. There were people who just like touched me and the other cosplayer without permission, who would just like put their arm around us and take a photo without asking first. Like it got like, I'm not a person who gets overwhelmed in like big social situations or spaces or whatever, or crowds, but like I started to get overwhelmed by it.
Wow.
And yeah, so even you have like the people in the cosplay community who know when it's okay to ask for a photo. You have other people at conventions who don't know the etiquette, but because they're at a convention start to pick up on it. And then that other experience of just like trying to do essentially like a professional photo shoot, but in a public place where it wasn't just like outdoors somewhere, it was in a museum. So people were clearly confused, because some people were like, are they part of one of the exhibits? Are they here to promote something? Is that like, what is this? What's going on? But just no boundaries.
Yeah.
Like no boundaries whatsoever.
And I know
so when a child tried to grab my sword at one point, and I was just like, no.
You're a better person than me. I would have punched that kid directly in his face.
The photographer actually took a really funny photo of, because she was trying to take a photo of me. Were trying to take a photo of me in like part of the Greek exhibit section, but they were taking the photos from quite a distance. So if there was like a crowd in the way, I can understand why this kid was just like, is she just like you sometimes get like Roman soldiers standing around at like museums and stuff like that, you know? So maybe he thought I was just like one of those kind of people, and he just tried to like grab my spear, and the photographer took a photo of the moment, like my face, the moment it happened, where I'm just like, what do I do?
So that kids in cosplay, I think one of the most magical moments I've seen for like a cosplayer in person in my life is like, there is a black Batman and there's this black kid that was like, I can be Batman, and the black guy was like, yeah, you can be Batman. It was just it did my heart a flutter. Have you had a moment where a kid has seen you and you could see the moment you inspired them?
Yeah. I mean, with Miss Marvel, like it happens all the time with Miss Marvel, basically. Like little girls, especially like little brown girls, come running up to me and are like, oh my god, it's Kamala Khan, which is just like my favorite. Like it's so cute, and it's really nice to make them feel that happy. But it's happened with other costumes as well. Happened with my Aloy. There was like a really cute little girl and her dad, and the girl was so shy and didn't want to ask for a photo because she was too shy, and so the dad came up to do it, and it was really cute. And not the exact same thing, but when I was in my Cassandra cosplay, there was a little boy who was dressed as Alexios from the same game, and we took a photo together, which was really cute. I think it also happened when I was in my Skyrim cosplay, actually. And again, it was a situation where it was like a little boy who loved Skyrim, but was like way too shy to go up to the big lady wearing armor holding a sword. And so his parents were like, he loves Skyrim, but he's gonna hide behind us the entire time. Is that okay? And I was like, yeah, like so much more patience for kids.
See, my worry is that I'd fuck up the children. It's just like, oh, I'm in this costume of this hero that they like, and I know who I am as a person. It's only a matter of time before I say some stupid shit.
Yeah. Like when it's bad is when you're like standing outside the convention and you're like taking a break, like smoking or drinking alcohol or something, and then there's a little girl who's like, oh my god, it's this character, and you're like, oh, fuck, put the cigarette out. Don't let them know that we sin.
It depends on how many I still have in the pack. If it's my last one, then I'm sorry, you about to see T'Challa smoke.
Hide the bull of the car.
Oh my god.
What are the cosplay restrictions on stabbing annoying children?
I mean, the spear and sword are made from foam, so I don't think it's going to do much.
No.
But I mean, it does my heart a flutter to hear that at least at the conventions people pick up on the etiquette and like it's getting better.
Yeah.
Because man, in the early days.
Back when I first started going to cons, it was the Wild West. Like,
I went to a comic, not a anime convention, ASIN, here in Chicago, and like it was like a yearly tradition that cops would be called for something. Like it was just, it was bad, man.
That wasn't the con where there was that famous case where it was like a Sasuke cosplayer got arrested for stealing or something. And there's like a famous photo of a guy in handcuffs in Sasuke cosplay.
I think that might have been us.
Being led out by police.
I think that might have been us.
At our local con, we had a rash of cosplayers getting like touched without like consent, or like getting pictures taken of them without consent. And we had a guy going around taking like upskirt photos of young girls. Oh, and so we had to actually have like posters put up with the cosplay is not consent. Please ask before taking a photo.
Yeah.
Like, my perverts ruin everything. I swear to God.
Yeah. That guy's yeah.
I remember like the free hugs and like glomping and people smacking people with yaoi paddles, like all that shit. Like it was the fucking Mad Max wasteland. It was the fucking Mad Max wasteland out there. The Hetalia cosplayers doing Nazi salutes, the L cosplayers walking around with no shoes on.
Yeah, like, and sitting on furniture like with their fucking feet. Oh. Like, we're talking like we went through a war. Like y'all don't know what it was like. We were in the shit.
There's one person I know at the Calgary cosplay or the expo got stopped by the cops because she was in an Ivy cosplay from Soul Calibur, and it was one of the Ivy cosplays where there's not much that is actually being worn, but was wearing like a skin suit.
Right. Yeah.
But got stopped by the cops because they thought that she was being nude in public because there's like just the straps that go over the portions. Yeah. That was a rough time.
Cosplayers have come a long way, and conventions have as well. They need to stop happening for some time.
I just remembered a really funny story from London MCM, which is like, I guess, my local con, but also is like the big London UK convention. When one year there was another convention running opposite MCM, and it was called like the World Peace Conference or something weird like that. It was like a religious thing, but it had the words like peace conference in it, and someone got stabbed at the peace conference, like actually stabbed at the peace conference. And then the next day they had like security up to here, like scanners, cops, everything,
weapons checks,
and everyone going into that convention was getting like scanned, checked, searched, everything. And then you'd see like people with their like giant buster swords just like strolling into London MCM like nothing.
You ever go to a convention and you see them half-assing weapon checks? That always scares me.
My light gun that is very obviously a toy had to get weapons checked.
I'd rather that they like overdo it with very obviously fake weapons than not do it at all.
Yeah.
Especially like on the other side of the pond, where it is a very real possibility that someone could have a real gun with them. Like,
so depressing. It's so depressing, man.
In Canada, at least we have gun control, so like you wouldn't see that, but at the same time.
Yeah, like that's very obviously a toy. I did have my bow for my Aloy cosplay and the arrows checked like very vigorously at EGX, which I thought was really funny because they were like, I was like, look, the arrow tips are made from foam. The bow is made from foam and PVC pipe. I've deliberately made the string on it like really loose. So even if I did try to fire an arrow, it would just do this. And then I showed her, I was like, whoop, like drew the bow, whoop, and it just dropped because the string was so loose. It just didn't even project it at all. And she just started laughing and was like, yeah, but we still have to check. I was like, yeah, that's fair enough.
There.
But then she was like, well, you made the arrows look like real metal, so I had to. I was like, oh, well, thank you.
Oh, see, that's how you do it.
That's kind of a compliment, at least.
Hey. There used to be a convention in Chicago that no longer exists, thank goodness, where my buddy went as Deadpool and had like full metal cap guns. And they just like put it on the desk there, like, there's a fire? He goes, no, it's a cap gun. They're like, okay, that's good. And then they just handed it back to him. Didn't do anything. They just like, here you go. I'm like, no, I'm gonna get shot. Oh.
Prop weapons at New York City Comic Con are apparently really bad. AJ had a staff that is basically a paper towel roll taken away.
I mean, that's much better than not having checked, because I was certain I was gonna get shot. I was like, there's no way.
I'd be worried about going to a cosplay con in the US, not gonna lie, especially like recent years where that is much more of like a thing in the news.
Like, it's so fucked up.
Yeah.
It's so fucked up that our longest stretch of time without a mass shooting has been because of a fucking virus. Like,
yeah.
I hate this country.
I am
anyway,
sorry.
no, it's fine. I'm trying to leave.
We'll get you up here to Canada. You're good.
Trying to make sure that we've gone through all our questions. I've asked almost everything that I wanted to ask about costume design. Oh, you know what? There is another question that I have. I don't know that. Have you GM'd yet?
I've GM'd once. for my parents and my brother over Christmas 2020. I GM'd a game of Quest for them, which was a one-shot that turned into a three-shot because none of them had ever played a TTRPG before in their entire lives.
It sounds like they liked it.
The reason it took so long was because I had planned for a one-shot, but they just took ages to do it because they didn't know what they were doing. And I get very nervous about it. Like I liked doing it. I thought that like GMing for people who had never interacted with TTRPGs before would be like a better way to try doing it for the first time, because they wouldn't have any expectations of what it would be like, basically. But then I realized, oh no, it's harder because now I have to explain what things like the word arcane and HP mean, and just these concepts that any person in the TTRPG community would just immediately know what it means. You have to explain like so much stuff to get them invested.
Right.
My brother was easier because he's like about my age and also watches like fantasy and sci-fi and stuff like that. So he had more of and plays video games. So he had more of a grounding in it. But my parents, my mum got quite into it because she used to be an actor. So she had fun with it. My dad used to be a director. So he basically tried to GM. And I had to be like, Dad, I'm the GM. You are not a director here. You are a player. Sit down.
Your dad's an actor?
My mum is an actor. My dad is a director. They don't do it so much anymore, but they do other things now. But yeah,
that's still really awesome.
Yeah. So they did get into it, but it was very like, it was harder than I expected it to be, on top of me already expecting it to be something challenging for me, just because of the way my brain works. Because I had to like explain every single tiny little sort of fantasy word, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I always say I would like to try GMing some more. I don't know if I could GM D&D. I keep trying to understand how CR works, and I just never will, because to me it just seems stupid.
You've unlocked
Quest I can do.
You've unlocked the greatest truth, which is
none of us
is
know.
no CR.
Like literally, my partner was explaining it to me like yesterday, and I was still just like, so it doesn't work and it doesn't make sense.
No.
Like, yes. It doesn't work and it doesn't make sense.
The points are made up. The rules don't matter.
Yeah. But I think like Quest I like because it's very, very streamlined, very like open-ended. I think it works for like people who are really creative and want something more rules light. So that's why I started off with Quest. But I don't know, I guess I could GM D&D, but I would make a lot of changes. A lot of changes, and I would streamline it to hell.
Welcome to the homebrew community.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for you.
I've been homebrewing D&D since before I even knew how to play it properly. Like my first proper D&D character was a homebrew race because I was like, I don't like any of this shit for this character. Like there's nothing that fits the concept I want. I will make it myself.
That's D&D at its best. Like all this other, like we have our own lore. You can keep that. Like do whatever the fuck I want.
So for the supplement I'm co-writing, I had to look into like the actual D&D lore behind like genies and djinn and marids and all that stuff. And I was just like, every time I look into any actual D&D lore for something, I'm just like, this is horrible. Why is this like this? You know that genies are portrayed as like lavish slave owners with their vast palaces and hundreds of slaves who worship them.
And I think they're all evil in Wizards world. Yeah.
And I was just like, well, we're not gonna do that, because I love how you made the one like Swana coded / non-Christian coded powerful like elemental beings. They all have slaves. Like, cool, thanks, love that. I'm not using it.
I mean, that was their go-to for a long time with their evil. It was just like, yeah, and this creature also has slaves, and they like beholders have slaves, mind flayers slaves.
Yeah.
Drow had slaves. Like,
But
Why
mind
does everyone have
flayers-
slaves?
But mind flayers are different because they call them thralls.
It's totally different.
Totally different and unique and distinct.
Yeah. So like you know how we say like D&D is kind of getting better and they're trying to improve things? Like they took out assigning race-based ASIs and stuff like that. And they're trying to like improve the lore behind certain races. And I'm just over here like, that's not enough because every single part of the lore is horrible. Like all of it is horrible.
It's just that's why I've always kind of ignored Faerun. Like I just don't. There's just nothing there for me.
No.
Yeah. Like I know if I did GM D&D, I would homebrew it. Like I just know for a fact that I would.
But I am excited at the prospect of seeing you GM one day. So I'm gonna keep out hope for that. There's already a hashtag apparently, get Issa the GM.
Oh, no.
And this actually kind of leads us into our next and possibly last question, because we've been at this for close to 3 hours.
Rock and roll.
If you were God Emperor of the TTRPG community for 24 hours, what would you do with that time?
Yeah, you could make a company $1 billion, or you could destroy a company, or you could create a new company. You could do whatever you want. You've got all the funding, all the power in the world.
I have a very spiteful answer that I'm not going to say. Because I explicitly told Anita that I didn't want to talk about it.
I can feel it in my bones. That'll be between us.
But no, what I think what I would do is if I had the power to just like, as well as like, you know, take down a company, like set up a company and give it like the ability to make things and have like funding and shit like that. Like, I think I would want to set up like a company for, I think very specifically Asian creators to, if not like POC in general, to like create Asian-based settings ourselves, because it feels like it's just constant white creators thinking that they have ownership over Asian settings, whether it's Japan and China, East Asia, whether it's Swana, whether it's South Asia. Like it just feels like it very often that is the go-to. So I think that's what I'd want, rather than tearing other people down. It would be nice to give Asian people the power to actually like create that for ourselves and have the funding and the backing to make it like on a massive scale that's going to get noticed and going to get like publicity and be played by a lot of people and stuff like that.
All right, I'm gonna tell the story. I'm gonna get myself in trouble. I was involved in a project at one point where we were creating like a game in a game system. There were NPCs made and factions in this game's world, and one of the factions was like all Asian women, all the same body type, and they all had a colored stripe in their hair. And I was just like, I didn't even know where to start. And I was just like, okay, there are a few things wrong with this immediately. Oh, and also they had a vowel where they didn't speak. So I was just
of
like,
course, because you've got to do every stereotype in one. She's got to have a colored streak, she's got to be an exotic dragon lady, and she must be silent.
Dragon was in fact involved in the faction name. So I had to explain, like, this is not awesome. And then, you know, and this designer had no ill intent, but it was just like, what do you mean? I'm so excited for this faction. Like, we're doing this for them, we're doing that for them. And I'm like, why can't they talk? It was just like, because they're like silent assassins. And I'm like, Do you not understand that the silent Asian woman is a really harmful, problematic trope in media? I had to find, and God bless, there's a Twitter account that logged all of these, like all of the silent Asian protagonist.
Yeah.
All
I
of
saw
the
it
hair
recently.
strip.
Mm.
And so I found this and I was just like, you need to do some reading on this. And God bless you.
Here's the
I don't-
I'm
TTRPG.
assuming you left after that.
I was no longer involved in the project afterwards. So I don't know if that faction is still that faction, but it's just like, I don't understand how you can be in this space and not aware of some of the tropes that people are getting sick of. Like,
Yeah, it sometimes amazes me when you see something that's where you think like, have we not gotten past this very like basic critique of the way certain groups of people are represented? Like the silent Asian woman has been a thing for years that people have been talking about, or like boob armor, like the black men being portrayed as thugs, like all of that shit that's just so like, you think of it as like 101 issues with representation, and it still happens somehow.
it's just, I think being a game designer, if you're going to do something like this, you have to start from a position of like really making sure that what you're putting into the world is not harmful. Like, I mean, we all want to like make new systems where we like get to play the badass characters that we've always imagined ourselves to be, but like, if your power fantasy means that somebody has to be the loser, then your power fantasy is probably wrong.
Yeah. Or if your power fantasy is like a weird, exotified, sexualized version of a group of people who often have that done to them, and you're not one of those people, it kind of says something.
See, my silent assassins have red hair. No, well, funny thing is, like, their rank was whatever the color streak was.
Oh my god! Okay, but I need to know what the hierarchy was. Like, was red the highest up? Because Power Rangers, red is always the leader.
No, there was a I'm really gonna give myself a joke. There's a white bar with like black bars in the streak.
Yeah.
Like black white stripes?
But like a white streak with like black bars going horizontally. That was like what the leader had.
Okay.
Ask me what their weapon was.
Was it a katana?
Nah.
Were they ninja stars? Shuriken?
No. They were
They
laser
the knives?
They were laser firing size. Yes. Yeah, like Death the Kid from Soul Eater, exactly. Oh my god, I think that's exactly what they got it from. Size, like the 3-pronged dagger.
Like Raphael from Ninja Turtles.
Raphael or
Yeah,
Electra.
thank you.
That great representation of Asian
Or
culture.
Electra, that other great representation of...
Yeah. Electra, the Greek named superhero with the size for weapons. I always found that really weird.
Can we
Like,
talk about the
they know
fact
who
that
Electra was, like in the mythology, like.
I mean, if we're getting into problematic characters here, can we talk about the fact that Psylocke is a British woman who was put into an Asian woman's body?
Wait, she is? I don't know a lot about Psylocke as a character, so she is?
So, yeah.
The Greek goddess of ninjas?
Elizabeth Betsy Braddock is Psylocke.
Yeah. Psylocke's name is Elizabeth Betsy Braddock. She is a English white woman whose body was put into the body of a Asian assassin lady.
I didn't. So did the British woman have the mutant
It's a
powers,
Get Out
or
situation.
did the Asian woman have the mutant powers?
I believe the British woman had the powers, and then Psylocke's body had the kung fu skills, and then there you go. I'm so sorry.
So I didn't know this, and I know like Asian cosplay friends from back in the day who cosplayed Psylocke because they were like, this is my representation. And it comes back to that thing we were saying earlier of like when we had to just accept anything that was chucked on the plate in front of us and couldn't, like, you know, you get your one Asian superhero, you better fucking love your one Asian superhero because it's all you're gonna get. Like,
let me just read this sentence because this is great. In a 1989 story, an amnesiac Betsy is kidnapped by the Hand, who brainwash her and physically alter her to take on an East Asian appearance.
So it's not being put in someone else's body. They like
Hand crime
give her
lord
surgery?
Matsui Suraba had her switch bodies with his lover, an Asian assassin known as Kwanon.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the race shit there that's horrible, but then you have the added layer of like this dude made her swap bodies with his lover,
and she was brainwashed
That's
into
gross.
becoming Lady Mandarin.
Comic books were a mistake. Do you ever think that sometimes they just like they don't even see like why or how it could be offensive because comic book writers just try so hard to come up with something completely batshit that they're so up their own arse about, oh, I came up with this weird concept. I don't see how this could be a problem.
I think there are some characters that I have fundamentally, as a comic book reading nerd, have gone, how are they gonna do this? Like when I first saw Olivia Munn and Psylocke, I'm like, they have to just ignore all of the characters' history.
They did, didn't they? She was barely a character, if I remember correctly, in the movie.
Of course not, because she was one, a minority, and two, a woman, and those characters did not get any screen time. Storm didn't get any screen time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm trying to remember. Is it in the is it Apocalypse? Is it that movie?
Yeah.
Where he like recruits, is she like one of his recruits? Because Storm is, he like grabs Storm from like a marketplace in Egypt or something. Is Psylocke another one of his like grunts,
in the movie?
Basically?
Yeah.
Who they just don't do anything with.
No, they don't.
Who played Apocalypse again?
The guy
the guy who
Star
plays
Wars.
Poe. Yeah. Oscar Isaac.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Daddy Oscar.
That was definitely one of those movies where I felt bad for all the actors having to like perform that shit.
I just hope that the check was worth it.
Yeah.
Like, I hope they paid him what he deserves, because that.
Probably.
But yeah, there's a little bit of trivia for all the Psylocke fans. Well, no, it's bad.
It's real bad.
I remember when I was a kid and I read that, and I literally walked over to my dad and I was just like, is the white lady an Asian lady now? He was just like, yeah. And I was like, are they going to do that to me? And then Get Out was written.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. What a fucking great movie, though. Oh my God, Get Out is Psylocke's story?
Thank you, because I have been thinking that since I saw it. I was like, oh, this is Psylocke, but nobody understood what I was trying to say.
I hate all of this, but I love you both.
There was nothing funnier than being in an interracial relationship and watching Get Out. Oh man, that was That was fun. Oh, we have hit the 3-hour mark. Hey, sweetie, you want to watch Get Out with me? Hey, let's make that. Let's make that the movie, Patience. Make Anita sit through Get Out. Have you seen Get Out?
I actually have not.
Oh my God. Yo! Please sign up to our Patreon and vote for Get Out.
No, vote for the next 2 Dungeons and Dragons movies first.
No.
You can intersperse them. Do the second D&D movie and then Get Out, and then the third D&D movie, and then us. You have to intersperse your bad movies with great movies.
I'm trying to get out of seeing the Dungeons and Dragons movie. Ethan, you gotta help me.
I think it would be funny. Sorry.
There are 3 Dungeons and Dragons movies.
You have broken my heart thrice now. I can't believe you are crunching. You crunch nice. We'll meet on the field of battle one day and it'll break my heart.
Crunch.
No, don't make it adorable.
Look, I'm sorry, but like, hang on, I've got to find a really nice one. I didn't put all my nicest dice in here. This was like general storage. But like, they're pretty. Wouldn't you want to just like hop?
No.
This one looks like a lemon drop.
No, they don't go in your mouth. Stop. That's been our show, everybody.
Doesn't this one just kind of look like Haribo though? Like,
no,
it does.
Yeah, like one of the gummies.
No,
Yeah.
I've been your host, Noir. You can find me all over the internet as TheNoirEnigma. That's Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok. Put those away. This is where I just get into a fight with the guest. And for your other host, we have Anita. Take it away.
Hi, I'm Anita. You can find me all over the place as Panita or Critical Misses. I am a TTRPG streamer, graphic designer, producer, and cat mom in the space. You can find me here pretty much all the time, and maybe other places soon. Check my Twitter. You'll find out these things. And we've got our guest next week. Our guest next week is Sarah, or Mustang's Art.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about all sorts of cool things like combat wheelchair and that sort of fun stuff.
And the fact that Professor Xavier ain't got no ramps in his school.
There's no ramps in the X-Mansion. We covered that with Sam.
His wheelchair can fly. He doesn't need them.
What about the rest of them?
Rex doesn't care about anybody else.
He's just floating up the stairs and another kid's falling behind him in a regular wheelchair like, this fucking guy.
But we still had an amazing guest today. Issa, thank you so much for stopping by and chatting with us. Tell us about who you are, what you do, where we can find you, all over the internet, and let people follow you there.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. This was really, really fun, even if I did end up making an enemy.
I'll never forgive you for this.
They'll forgive you. It's fine.
Sorry, I just read someone in the chat said Professor X is internalized ableism.
I mean, it's true. How you got no ramps in this?
But yeah, I'm Izza. I go by EvilCleverDog online. That is on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. I'm a designer, a cosplayer, TTRPG streamer, podcaster, many, many things. So yeah, if you want to see specifically cosplay content, then Instagram is a good place to go because it just has like all my cosplay pictures. And I also on YouTube make cosplay and crafting videos. So go to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/evilcleverdog. If you want to check out some of my like video tutorials about making different props and costumes. The next one is going to be a video tutorial of how I made this little mimic. Her name is Mimi, and she wants to eat your dice because dice are edible.
No, they're not. Don't you say that line.
And yeah, follow me on Twitter for like I don't know, Twitter shenanigans. I used to dunk on TTRPG related stuff a lot, but I've kind of stopped doing that a little bit. And I'm going to be doing some cool TTRPG streaming, recording stuff pretty soon. So yeah, go to Twitter if you want to see when that's all going to be happening. And also check out the Asians Represent podcast, which I'm a part of. And we'll be doing some more episodes with them very, very soon. So yeah, that's me.
Heck yeah.
I am for sure gonna check out that Mimic video because dice go in boxes, not in bodies.
But this is both.
Damn it! I walked right into that one.
Really did.
We're just gonna leave you all with this. Please sign up for our Patreon. Because it's hard out here in these streets.
And also, Noir has a GoFundMe right now to help get him to Canada. So go support that. It is right there. Thank you so much. Once Noir saved 50 people from a terrible car wreck without a single injury. It's true. These are facts about Noir.
That's not true. It was actually 52, but I don't like to brag.
We're gonna go on a raid to Total Party Kiss and say hi to those fun folks over there. Thank you all so much for stopping by, and Isa, thank you for talking with us today.
This was so much fun.
A blast. We love you all, but until next week, the ritual has concluded. Bye, everybody.
Bye.